Chapter 1437. Yun Jian's words stunned the men standing in front of her. It was obvious that Yun Jian, who was only 16 or 17 years old, was able to say something like that despite her youthful looks. Not only were the men standing opposite of Yun Jian shocked, but Yu Shaluo, and Zhengliang, He Mei, and the rest were equally shocked. It even attracted the attention of all the prisoners sitting around the dungeon. Gu Junjian was the only one who knew the reason why Yun Jian dared to say that. Gu Junjian was aware of Yun Jian's identity as slaying god. However, when he saw the men having designs on Yun Jian and the other two girls, Gu Junjian had forgotten about Yun Jian's identity. He had stood up to protect her out of reflex. Yo, is this chick challenging our prison boss? Right after Yun Jian finished speaking, an indecent male voice was heard. It was the man who was watching the show. This chick has a death wish. How dare she call the prison boss trash? She doesn't know our prison boss's identity. Before he was sent to the dungeon. He was Martial King, ranked 10th on the International Assassin chart. If we weren't trapped here, we wouldn't even have the chance to meet Martial King, who's ranked on the International Assassin chart. Another male voice sounded. This voice was as lazy as it could be. Most of the people here had the mentality of, I won't be able to get out of the dungeon anyway. They were here to drag out an ignoble existence and live as long as they could. There was nothing to talk about, so the people here liked to talk about their past deeds outside. And Zhengliang, He Mei, Yu Shaluo, and the rest looked worried when they heard that the prison boss was once ranked on the International Assassin chart. Even Lin Wei, who had accepted all sorts of challenges from the people in the prison over the past few days, and was the strongest among them, could not stand up anymore. His eyelids twitched and his eyes were filled with despair. The title of prison boss was not for nothing. The number of people Martial King had killed in the prison all these years was immeasurable. No one in the prison disagreed with his identity as the prison boss, because the Martial King's fist was hard enough. King Wu? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly when she heard this name. The Martial King, who ranked 10th on the International Assassin rankings, had lived for even longer than Yun Jian's debut. But Yun Jian had indeed heard of the Martial King's name. Unfortunately, many years ago, the Martial King disappeared into thin air, as if he had evaporated into thin air. There was an unwritten rule in the international ranking of assassins and secret agents. Assassins or secret agents who disappeared for half a year were automatically considered dead. Naturally, someone else would take their place. It turned out that the Martial King was not dead, but imprisoned in the dungeon. No wonder King Wu went missing. Yun Jian's eyes flickered. The men who had been calling the Martial King boss earlier thought that Yun Jian was afraid. They looked at Yun Jian and spoke again, their voices filled with arrogance and pride. That's right. The Martial King who was ranked 10th on the assassin rankings was our boss. Little sister, are you scared now? If you're scared, then come over obediently, or else. Just as these men spoke up to this point, a figure suddenly flitted past in front of them. Yun Jian sent them flying with a few kicks, then grabbed the collar of the man who had been speaking rudely just now and dragged him away. Gu Junjian, Yu Shaluo, and the others were stunned when they saw this, but they quickly followed. In a corner, a man had just gotten up from an unconscious woman. He pulled his belt and was just about to leave when a heavy figure was thrown in front of him. This man was the Martial King, and the figure thrown on the ground was the man who had spoken rudely to Yun Jian just now. The Martial King abruptly raised his head. When he saw Yun Jian, his brows furrowed slightly. Who are you? The Martial King's vigilance was still very high. He looked at Yun Jian and immediately asked. Although this little girl was young, from her appearance, she was not an ordinary person. Not long after the Martial King asked, Yun Jian's equally arrogant words were heard. Chapter 1438. Gu Junjian and Muing, who were the first to rush up, were not surprised when they heard Yun Jian's words. After all, the two of them already knew about Yun Jian's identity. However, and Zhengliang, Black Sister, and the others who caught up from behind, as well as Lin Wei, who was being supported and beaten to the brink of death, were all stunned when they heard Yun Jian's words. Yun Jian. What did she say? Not only did she say that King Wu was a trash boss, But now she wants King Wu to give up his position as the prison's boss? Black Sister didn't like Yunjian very much when she appeared, because in Black Sister's eyes, Yunjian was here to cause trouble. Now, she disliked Yunjian even more. Lin Wei was the strongest in their group, and the only reason why the people in the prison didn't bully him was because Lin Wei was still alive. However, there were still a lot of people who were eyeing Lin Wei covetously, waiting for Lin Wei to die before rushing up to make things difficult for Good Junjian and the others. Probably because the people here were locked up for a long time without seeing the light, the only thing left in their world was killing. King Wu, who was standing opposite Yunjian, stretched out his thumb and rubbed his nose. His ugly face was full of red pimples, and it looked like he had overindulged in debauchery. In the past few years, the only person who dared to challenge me was you, little girl. King Wu rubbed his hands and said this sentence in a strange tone. It was obvious that King Wu was now very unhappy with Yunjian's actions. The evil aura emitted from King Wu's body made Lin Wei tremble. Lin Wei was the strongest in Gu Yunjian's group. At that time, he fought with King Wu once and was defeated in a few moves. However, King Wu didn't kill him. Everyone in the prison knew that King Wu liked to torture people slowly. When people were tired or he wanted to make a move, he would kill them. Later, before King Wu killed Lin Wei, Gu Junjian and the others, Yunjian came. What a pity. It seems that today, not only will I be the only person who challenged you in all these years, but I will also be the executioner who ends your life. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. She wasn't scared by King Wu's aura in front of everyone. Instead, she openly looked at King Wu and said this arrogantly. A 16 or 17-year-old girl had just said something that many of the men present didn't dare to say. They didn't even dare to let out a fart. Everyone present was stunned. Did this little girl go crazy after realizing that she couldn't go out? Was she stupid? Because she couldn't accept the truth. She went crazy? Yunjian, you want to kill us? Black Sister ground her teeth, using a voice that was equivalent to a warning to speak these words very softly from her mouth. Yunjian's right's words died to die's Yun, as always to death. She just to die to die she, as always caused trouble was caused troubles Yun, SSS to dies to die. But now, she actually went against King Wu's words. Everyone present knew King Wu's strength. If they were to go against King Wu, then all of them would die. Yunjian naturally heard Yunjian's words, but she ignored them. She glanced to the side. In the next breath, Yunjian suddenly lifted her leg and ran towards King Wu. She made the first move. King Wu saw this and couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Yunjian's running speed was extremely slow and full of loopholes. King Wu didn't raise his guard at all. Just as he was about to raise his hand, Yunjian was already in front of King Wu. She suddenly became fierce, and a butterfly knife appeared in her hand. In front of everyone, she directly plunged it into King Wu's neck. King Wu died on the spot. In a battle between experts, victory or defeat was decided in one move. Yunjian's eyes widened when she saw this scene. After King Wu fell to the ground and died before he could even utter his last words, Yunjian scanned the crowd and said with a red smile, "You're right. From now on, I'm your new prison boss." With that, Yunjian bent down and pulled out the butterfly knife from King Wu's neck. Chapter 1439. Yunjian's attack was so fast that no one had a chance to react. King Wu was a very powerful person, so powerful that even Yunjian had to maintain full vigilance. However, in the eyes of outsiders, the battle between Yunjian and King Wu was only a matter of 10 seconds. In these short 10 seconds, he had already come up with dozens of battle plans in his mind. In a battle between two experts. In a battle between experts, every move was fatal. Yunjian had shown her flaws to King Wu. King Wu clearly thought that she had some ability, but she was still too young, so King Wu did not raise his guard from the beginning. King Wu was an assassin, so his vigilance should not have been so weak. However, Yunjian had guessed it in advance, especially the words that the martial king himself had said. King Wu said that in the past few years, she was the only person who dared to challenge him. This meant that King Wu had been in the position of prison boss for a long time, and had not met an opponent for a few years. Perhaps King Wu used to be very powerful, so powerful that it was amazing. Yin Jian had never met King Wu, but she had heard of his name. King Wu, who was ranked 10th on the international assassin rankings. His strength was comparable to the 4th on the international assassin rankings. His ranking was just a little lower. In the past, King Wu was very strong, but after staying in prison for so many years, the current King Wu did not work hard in such a cruel world, and had gradually lost his edge. Coupled with King Wu's own words, he had not met an opponent who could fight him for so many years. A kind of numbness appeared in his heart, and he felt that no one was as good as him. This was the key to Yin Jian's victory over King Wu in one move. She could read people's minds. Therefore, in terms of opponents, if their opponents were too weak, they would gradually relax and feel that they were already strong enough. They would no longer work hard or fight for anything. However, they did not know that they were just frogs at the bottom of a well. They were stuck in the same place, while others were working hard to the peak. For example, in school sports and running competitions, if the opponents in the same group were too weak, then the results of the entire group would not be too high. Perhaps they were already complacent, but compared to the people in the other groups, they were lagging by a lot. Yin Jian understood this a long time ago, so she never wanted her opponents to be too weak. She even wanted to go to more dangerous places to challenge herself. Because only by tempering oneself and walking on the edge of life and death could one become the ultimate king. In the eyes of outsiders, Yin Jian's action of killing King Wu looked like she had easily killed King Wu with a single move. Therefore, the surrounding people were dumbfounded. Especially the black-haired girl who had just said that Yin Jian wanted to kill them. Now the black-haired girl's face was terrifyingly dark. Inside the prison, the people who were originally sitting lazily and watching the show all stood up at this moment. The martial king had dominated the prison for a long time. It could be said that he had never met a worthy opponent in all these years. Therefore, the people in the prison were already numb, thinking that no one would be able to kill the martial king in this lifetime. But no one expected that the person who killed the martial king would come. Furthermore, she was an underage girl. For a moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Yin Jian. Yu Shaluo gulped. He took a long time to call out Yin Jian's name. In the end, he could not say anything. Although Gu Junjian already knew Yin Jian's identity, the moment Yin Jian rushed up, he still broke out in a cold sweat for Yin Jian. Now that he saw that Yin Jian was safe, Gu Junjian felt a sense of relief. At this moment, Yin Jian walked up to Gu Junjian and the others. She wiped the blood off the butterfly knife, then put it away. She stood in front of Gu Junjian and the others and said generously, "All right, I can go now." Go? Go where? Yu Shaluo did not understand, but he was the first to react. At this moment, Yin Jian had already walked to the door of the prison cell. Yin Jian, are you thinking of breaking out of the prison? Yu Shaluo said in horror. At this moment, the people around the prison turned their gazes over. Chapter 1440. A small and broken prison? This is a small and broken prison. The people present were shocked by Yin Jian's words. A small and broken prison? Little girl, we admit your strength, but you actually said that this is a small and broken prison? The prison in our dungeon is as strong as iron. Not to mention the entrance of the dungeon, even the prison's cage has a password lock installed. It's a system device. If you want to open the door, you have to use Glenn's fingerprints to open the cage. In addition to the prison's cage, you have to go all the way to the dungeon's entrance. The dungeon's entrance also requires Glenn's fingerprints to unlock the password lock. Here, there are 2 thresholds. Not to mention the guards that were patrolling the area. Moreover, if we casually touch the password lock, the alarm system will immediately be pulled. We will be caught before we can even start to escape. I've been here for more than 10 years and have long given up hope of leaving. You may not know, but the prison boss who was earlier than the martial king was a terrifying guy who was 10 times more powerful than the martial king. Back then, the martial king was only enough to be the underling of that prison boss. In the end, that terrifying guy escaped and broke through the password lock of the prison's cage. He broke through all the obstacles, and had already reached the entrance of the dungeon. However, because he couldn't unlock the password lock at the entrance of the dungeon, he was directly shot to death by the guards who chased after him with a machine gun. That's why the Martial King was able to become our prison boss. Little girl, I think you're quite young, so don't do stupid things. Hey, back then, I was also a warrior who served the country and the people. In the end, I was still locked up here, and one of my hands was crippled. However, I'm already very satisfied to be able to save this rotten life of mine. Just as Yun Jian was about to take action, a man in his 50s with long hair, who probably hadn't cut it for many years, sitting in the corner, raised his head to look at Yun Jian, and kindly reminded her. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't have said so many words of advice to Yun Jian. After all, just like the previous prison boss, the Martial King, if someone questioned his ability in front of everyone, according to the Martial King's character, he would guarantee to kill the person who questioned his ability at the first moment. The words of this man with long hair in his 50s made Yun Jian narrow her eyes, and made Zhengliang, Black Sister and the others turn pale with fright. First of all, it can be confirmed that the terrifying guy that this man was definitely the one Zhengliang mentioned before. The one who escaped the farthest and was shot to death by a machine gun because he couldn't unlock the password lock at the entrance of the dungeon. However, everyone didn't expect that person to be 10 times more powerful than the Martial King. If that was the case, would Yun Jian not have an even lower chance of winning? Wanting to escape, that was simply courting death. Escaping prison, that is death. Yun Jian, don't drag us into your mess. I've been putting up with you for a long time. You've been causing trouble for us since the beginning. Look what you've done now. We're all going to die here. Hee hee. Then do you know how to unlock the password lock? Have you ever thought that if you escape, you will be like the previous boss, who was shot to death by a machine gun because he couldn't unlock the password lock? Don't make trouble for us, we. Black Sister clenched her fists and made a gesture of tolerating Yun Jian for a long time. Gotcha. However, before Black Sister finished speaking, the sound of a lock being unlocked was heard. Black Sister and the others turned their heads in surprise, only to see that Yun Jian had already unlocked the password lock in her hand. Chapter 1441. Careless? He accidentally unlocked the password lock? Everyone was stunned. In front of the prison cage was a door with a password lock. This password lock was monitored by a computer program. Unless Glenn pressed his finger and fingerprint on the top of the password lock, the password lock could not be unlocked. Otherwise, if someone reached out and pressed 3 buttons on the password lock would sound an alarm. If someone tried to escape, the guards in the prison would immediately know and rush over. Normally, if the alarm did not sound, there would be no guards patrolling here. Because without the password lock, the prison cage was extremely stable. Even if it was bombarded with cannons, it would not be able to blow it open. The cage of the prison was only a little worse than the entrance of the dungeon. So Glenn had no intention of sending anyone to guard this place. This was because if someone wanted to escape, they would touch the combination lock. Once the combination lock was touched, a loud alarm would sound. In this way, the guards would immediately know and rush over. If they did not touch the password lock, the people here would not be able to break the cage at all, nor would they be able to get out. The terrifying fellow who had escaped to the entrance of the dungeon was already the most powerful one among all the prisoners in the dungeon who had escaped. Even he had to spend a few months before he was able to crack the combination lock. Most people had not even stepped out of the prison cage before they were discovered because they had touched the password lock and sounded the alarm. There was an unwritten rule in the dungeon, and that was once someone was found to have escaped from prison, they would be shot on the spot. Therefore, there were many people who had died trying to escape from prison over the years. Over time, the people here did not dare to take the risk of escaping from prison. But what happened today? Black Sis had just finished speaking, and before she could finish speaking, Yun Jian had already unlocked the password lock? Yun Jianyu. At this moment, Black Sis had just recovered from the shock of Yun Jian killing the Martial King. In the end, she had just opened her mouth to say something righteous when Yun Jian ruthlessly slapped her in front of everyone. This time, Black Sis's face really darkened. Originally, it was not black, but it had really turned black. I won't force you to break out of prison with me. Now those who are willing to come with me, those who aren't can stay. Also, if any accidents happen during the escape, I won't be responsible, because I can still leave without you. Yin Jian looked at everyone in the prison. She reached out and shook the password lock in her hand. In the next moment, she threw the password lock in her hand to the ground. However, she curled her red lips. Although she said that, Yin Jian glanced at Gujunjian. She was here to save Gujunjian. As for why she invited others, it was because she was not alone. She wanted to bring Gujunjian out. The more people, the safer Gujunjian. Even if the guards were to catch up, Gujunjian would not be the first to die. Don't blame her, Yin Jian, for being cruel. This was the way of survival. To achieve one's goal by hook or by crook, this was the principle of being a secret agent. She, Yin Jian, was never a good person, and had never admitted that she was. I'll go with you. The man in his 50s who kindly reminded Yin Jian, just now stood up and spoke first. His hair was very long because it had been a long time since he had trimmed it. I don't want to stay here anymore. Instead of staying here for the rest of my life, I might as well fight for my freedom. Even if I die, I won't regret it. My name is Wei Gear, a police officer from country Y. I'll go with you. The man who called himself Wei Gear looked at Yin Jian and spoke. Those who want to go, follow me. Those who don't, I won't force you. Yin Jian curled her lips. She did not answer Wei Gear. Instead, she curled her red lips. It was obvious that Yin Jian was not going to say welcome. Other than Wei Gear, Gujunjian Muing, Yushaluo Lin Wei, Heimei and Zhengliang, and the rest, there were also a few people who followed Yin Jian. Soon, under Yin Jian's lead, the few of them made countless turns and arrived at a fork. There were 2 guards standing in front of the fork, each holding a machine gun in their hands. Yin Jian waved her hand to signal for everyone to stop. Then, she bit on an unused butterfly knife in her mouth and rolled towards the 2 guards. What shocked Heimei, Yushaluo, and the rest was that Yin Jian rolled on the ground and arrived in front of the 2 guards. Logically speaking, in such a quiet environment, this roll should have made some noise. However, the strange thing was that Yin Jian's roll did not make any noise at all. Yin Jian was not human at all, this supernatural thing. Chapter 1442. Yin Jian silently rolled to the side of the 2 guards. She did not reach for the butterfly knife in her mouth. Instead, she stood behind the 2 guards. Because the dungeon was built in the basement, there was no light all year round. They could only rely on electric lights to light up the passageway. Although Yin Jian's movements were silent, when the light shone on the ground, they could see her figure. The 2 guards originally had their backs facing Yin Jian. When they suddenly saw that under the light, other than their own shadows, there was another small shadow on the ground in front of them. They were immediately shocked. After all, if someone approached them in such a quiet place, they would definitely make some noise. Moreover, the 2 guards knew very well that if someone wanted to escape from the prison cell, they had to crack the password lock. If the password lock could not be cracked by pressing it 3 times, the alarm would immediately be sounded. The only person who could crack the password lock was the terrifying person who had escaped to the entrance of the dungeon and was shot to death by the guards with a machine gun. Therefore, these 2 guards were not on high alert to begin with. After trembling violently, the 2 guards wanted to turn around as if they had seen a ghost. Gujunjian, and Zhengliang, Heimei Yushaluo, and the others who were hiding in the corner were terrified. The 2 guards turned around. Just as the guards turned around, however, they saw that Yin Jian and Gujunjian, and the others who had peeked their heads out from the corner, had already left the cell. The guards were about to cry out in shock when they heard Yin Jian's voice. Yin Jian, who was standing in front of the 2 guards, suddenly reached into her pocket and took out 2 pieces of paper that were rolled into a circle. The 2 guards were shocked that Yin Jian and the others had escaped from the prison and were about to scream. She took out the paper towels with both hands and stuffed them into the 2 guards' mouths before they could make a sound. Then, Yin Jian grabbed the 2 guards' jackets and used their own jackets to completely tie them up. Yin Jian then held the butterfly knife that was biting her lips in her hand. She pressed the butterfly knife against the neck of one of the guards and called Gujunjian, and the others who were hiding in the corner to come over. Gu Junjian and the others walked over very carefully. There were only 2 guards nearby, but they still chose to be careful in order to prevent any accidents. Yin Jian, why don't you just kill them? Why are you wasting time here? He Mei said to Yin Jian angrily. Yin Jian ignored He Mei. She lowered her head and looked at the 2 guards. She whispered to the guard whose neck she was pressing. Dungeon entrance, lead the way. He Mei was a little angry that Yin Jian did not kill them and was wasting time here. But after hearing Yin Jian's words, He Mei suddenly came to her senses. The dungeon was very large. He Mei immediately felt that what she said just now made her seem stupid. Yin Jian's eyes stared straight at the guard whose neck she was pressing against. The guard shook his head desperately and tried to break free. He even tried to knock on the ground with his feet to ask for help. It was a pity that Yin Jian stabbed the guard's temple just as he was about to flee. With a muffled groan, the guard died instantly. Seeing the blood splatter, He Mei was still shocked. Even Lin Wei, who was stronger, couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He even complained in a low voice, "This little girl is quite fierce." Before he finished, Yin Jian had already pulled out the butterfly knife and planned to stab the other guard's temple. When the other guard saw this, he shook his head and began to mumble. Seeing that the plan was successful, Yin Jian's red arc curved and she said, "Lead the way." The guard immediately nodded. Yin Jian stood up and waved her hand to let Gu Junjian and the others hold the guard hostage. Generally, the guards in the dungeon were strictly trained, and they would definitely not betray Glenn after being caught by the enemy for a while. It would take months of torture to force the hostages to submit, but Yin Jian only used a few seconds to make the guard submit obediently, and Zhengliang, He Mei, Lin Wei, Wei Gear, and the others were stunned. Chapter 1443. The second one to follow was Muing. She was holding a shiny pistol in her hand. Those who didn't know would wonder where she got the gun from, but Lin Wei saw it clearly just now. Mu Ying's gun was snatched from a prisoner who secretly hid a pistol when she was still in prison. Not only did Mu Ying snatch the pistol, she also knocked the prisoner unconscious. Because Yin Jian was too outstanding at that time, the people around them didn't notice Mu Ying's actions. Lin Wei was considered the strongest in the group, but because he was challenged every day in prison, and it was the kind of battle where one's life or death would be at stake if he wasn't careful, Lin Wei was in a very sorry state at the moment. He was covered in injuries and had to rely on the help of 2 other Special Forces soldiers to walk forward. However, Lin Wei was the only one who saw Mu Ying snatch the pistol, and he was shocked at that time. He was only able to save his life in prison. However, Yin Jian and Mu Ying, these 2 female students from Min City's military school, one killed the prison boss directly, and the other snatched a pistol in prison. If it were him, Lin Wei wouldn't even dare to do that. It was already good enough that he could save his own life in prison, not to mention anything else. Therefore, Yin Jian and Mu Ying's actions frightened Lin Wei. His soul returned to reality. Yin Jian walked in front, and Mu Ying was the second to follow. Seeing this, Gu Junjian and Zhengliang, who grabbed the guard, carried him and quickly followed Yin Jian. He Mei, Lin Wei, Wei Gear, and the others were at the bottom. Under the guard's hand gestures, the group of people moved toward the dungeon gate. They went through countless turns along the way. Perhaps the guard was afraid of death, so he led the way and they didn't meet anyone else. "We're here. That's the dungeon gate." Wei Gear, who was walking at the back, saw the dungeon gate. He said in a muffled voice, but he was so excited that he wanted to scream. In the end, Wei Gear calmed himself down. How many years had it been? Weigel was a glorious criminal police officer. When he failed to assassinate Glenn and was locked up in the dungeon, he even felt that it was better to die than to lose his freedom. When one of his hands was crippled in the dungeon, Weigel had already planned to die. No one had ever escaped from this dungeon. Even that terrifying character who was 10 times more powerful than the Martial King was unable to leave this place. Not to mention them. However, Weigel gave up on death because his good comrade, who had been imprisoned with him, had died for him. Before he died, he had shouted at him, "You must live on." Even that terrifying figure could only escape to the entrance of the dungeon, but they actually managed to do it. Wei Gear was excited. At the same time, he was 100% certain about Yun Jian's strength. This little girl's strength was definitely not inferior to that terrifying figure from back then. Perhaps they could really leave this place. They soon arrived at the entrance of the dungeon. There was a password lock hanging above the entrance. This password lock was even more complicated than the password lock in the prison back then. Ordinary people would not be able to understand the program on this password lock. Yun Jian quickly unlocked it. Blackie said excitedly. At the same time, her heart clenched tightly. It's too late. They're coming. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She looked ahead the way they came. However, she saw that directly opposite the dungeon, a large group of fully armed guards rushed in front of Yun Jian and the others. Each of them carried a machine gun in their hands. Ah, how did they discover us? Blackie was so scared that her legs instantly trembled. The few people present immediately recalled that this was where that terrifying figure was shot to death by the guards' machine guns. After so many years, the scene from back then had reappeared once again. Yun Jian wanted to unlock the password lock on this side of the dungeon. Naturally, she would need more time than the prison. And now, the guards were all holding machine guns in their hands. The muzzles were pointed at everyone present. That's how that terrifying figure died back then. We've been discovered. It's over. It's really over. Wei Gear was paralyzed on the ground as he said these words. With me here, do they really think that these few machine guns can stop us from leaving this place? Yun Jian smirked and laughed coldly. Forget about machine guns. Someone once tried to bombard her with cannons, and she easily dodged it. She did not care about these few machine guns at all. Yun Jian's words were just normal words in her eyes. However, in the ears of Blackie, Wei Gear, Lin Wei and the others, these words had a very different meaning. Humans against machine guns could still survive. This was the first time they heard such a statement. Without a doubt, they were very suspicious of Yun Jian's words. Even Gu Junjian looked worried. Chapter 1444. The group of guards did not say a word. They raised their machine guns and were about to fire. Yun Jian did not say anything. However, she had already noticed that there was a surveillance camera right above the entrance of the dungeon. There were also surveillance cameras along the way. However, the path they took earlier was the only way. There was no other way. Or to put it another way, Yun Jian knew from the start that the guards had purposely led them here. At this moment, the group of guards had already raised their machine guns. Muing, take them away. Just as the group of guards were still loading their machine guns, and were about to point their machine guns at Yun Jian and the rest, Yun Jian shouted. She grabbed the guard who was in front of Gu Junjian and the rest and rushed towards the group of guards. This scene almost made Zhengliang, Wei Gear, and the rest go crazy. Lin Wei frowned and then shouted at the figure that Yun Jian was rushing towards. Young lady, come back. You'll die. She was going to face the group of guards with machine guns alone. Did she want to die? Lin Wei was purely concerned about Yun Jian. Hence, he reached out to grab the corner of Yun Jian's clothes. However, he did not expect Yun Jian's reaction to be so fast. She grabbed the guard who was holding her hostage. She could still run so fast while holding a person. In the blink of an eye, Yun Jian was already about 5 to 6 meters away from the group of guards with machine guns. Seeing Yun Jian rush over, the group of guards originally planned to deal with Gu Junjian, and the rest who were around Yun Jian first before dealing with Yun Jian. However, because of Yun Jian's sudden rush, she was already in front of them. When the guards saw this, they immediately turned their machine guns that were aimed at Gu Junjian, and the rest to Yun Jian who was rushing towards the group of guards. All the machine guns were aimed at Yun Jian alone. She had lured the machine guns away for Gu Junjian and the rest, taking on the barrage of bullets alone. She was going to die for sure. Even Gu Junjian, who had always been confident in Yun Jian and knew of her identity, shouted at Yun Jian. Xiao Jian, come back. It's dangerous. Gu Junjian shouted as he chased after Yun Jian. Before Gu Junjian could go after her, however, Gu Junjian and Zhengliang, Blackie Mei, and the rest who were standing where they were saw a frightening scene. Yun Jian did not even turn back as she rushed over. Some of the guards who were armed with machine guns had already loaded their guns and aimed them at Yun Jian. Bang 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 bang. Gunshots rang out one after another. Yin Jian dragged the guard who led the way just now and placed him in front of her like a meat wall. The bullets from the machine guns hit the guard hard. The guard's eyes were still wide open before he died. As he could not make a sound, he grunted twice before he died in terror. Yin Jian did not stop dragging the guard's corpse. The machine guns in the guard's hands could penetrate a person's body. After the gun hit the guard in Yin Jian's hand, it paused for a second before it went through Yin Jian, who was behind her. If it was anyone else in Yin Jian's position, they would probably be dead now. However, for Yin Jian, this pause was enough. The moment the machine guns in the guard's hand stopped firing, Yin Jian threw away the guard's corpse in her hand. She jumped to the side. She had already arrived in front of one of the guards. In the next moment, Yin Jian used her elbow to smash the neck of the nearest guard standing in front of her. With one smash, she broke the guard's neck. At the same time, she snatched the machine gun from the guard whose neck she broke first. She did not even think about it. She grabbed the machine gun and swept it at the guards around her. She fired as she ran. A large number of the guards immediately fell. However, those who were still alive would still attack Yin Jian. Yin Jian dodged the bullets as she fought back against the guards. That nimble figure seemed to be very familiar with this kind of battlefield filled with bullets. He was like a general who had survived a battle of life and death. And Zhengliang, Blackie and the others who were in the distance stared with wide eyes. They watched as Yin Jian finished off the last guard. Then, she threw the machine gun in her hand to the ground and walked back to them. There was no trace of blood on her body. However, her entire body reeked of gunpowder. The moment she turned around and walked over, her high ponytail swayed left and right. At that moment, everyone was in a daze. Chapter 1445. The battle only lasted for 3 minutes. Within those 3 minutes, Yin Jian executed hundreds of moves. Every move and movement was not allowed to deviate by even a millimeter. Everyone who stood rooted to the spot was stunned for 3 whole minutes. Even Mu Ying's eyes flashed with surprise. She was only about 9 years old when she died. She was dead, but Yin Jian was still alive, and Yin Jian continued to train her skills in the organization. After Mu Ying took on this body, she had been practicing martial arts with her parents since she was born into a military family. She was very hardworking and had the experience of being an assassin organization. Mu Ying's skills were not to be underestimated. Compared to Yin Jian, who grew up in the organization, however, the difference was like heaven and earth. Even Mu Ying could not help but marvel at Yin Jian's ability. If it had been her just now, she would have had no chance of winning. In spite of it, not only did Yin Jian succeed, she did not even have a scratch on her. It was like she was so familiar with the scene just now that she could do it with her eyes closed. Yee. How did you? Miss Blackie's eyes were about to fall out of their sockets when she saw Yin Jian coming back from the other side. After all, that terrifying fellow had died under the machine guns of the guards. That guy who was 10 times more powerful than Marshal King could not dodge the machine gun attack. He could not escape death. What about Yin Jian? She was from Min City's military school, a kid who had just entered high school, but she had dodged it. This scene caused everyone to be shocked, stunned, and terrified. When Miss Blackie stuttered to Yin Jian was already in front of them. There'll be a new wave of guards coming here in 10 minutes. I can't guarantee that they'll point their guns at me every time, so we have to leave now. Yin Jian explained quickly as she stood in front of the combination lock at the entrance of the dungeon, her fingers tapping on the lock swiftly. Xiao Jian, you were so impulsive just now. What if you missed? Dad knows you have extraordinary skills, but every time I see you taking risks like this, Dad gets worried. Gu Junjian was already used to playing the role of Yin Jian's father. He sighed from the bottom of his heart. He was really worried about Yin Jian. Hearing Gu Junjian's words, everyone immediately turned to look at Yin Jian. At this moment, everyone wanted to hear Yin Jian's answer. At this moment, he heard Yin Jian's voice. Her fingers were still rapidly working on the password lock. She opened her mouth and said, "I'll be fine. You don't have to worry." Such a dangerous move. Even I think it's dangerous. If you make even the slightest mistake, someone will die. Your mother and I are the same. We hope that you can only do other things when you can guarantee your own safety. Gu Junjian frowned and said to Yunjian. Okay. Yunjian nodded. In the end, Yunjian added, I've never done anything that puts myself in danger. What I did just now isn't the first time. I'm used to these days where I'm on the brink of death. I can guarantee that I'll be fine, so you don't have to worry. As Yunjian spoke, the password lock on the dungeon door fell with a click. The door opened. Everyone's eyes lit up in surprise. Follow me, don't wander off, Yunjian said calmly as usual. Yunjian, let me ask you. We were discovered when we first entered Glen's base. Did you walk out because you knew that Glen and his men were standing outside? Yu Shaluo, who had been silent for a long time, asked Yunjian. Everyone was surprised by Yu Shaluo's sudden question, and turned to look at Yunjian. Yunjian did not reply. Just when everyone thought that Yunjian would not reply, Yunjian suddenly spoke. Yes, everything is going according to my plan. Moreover, Glen and the others were able to discover our traces because of me. My goal was only to enter the dungeon. Everyone already had a faint premonition about the first sentence, but the second sentence caused everyone to turn pale with fright. The moment they entered Glen's base, they were discovered by Glen and the others. This matter was actually directed and acted by Yunjian? Chapter 1446. Originally, he thought that he would be discovered as soon as he entered Glen's base camp. Yunjian's strength was only so. Even though Yunjian knew the back door of Glen's base camp, and brought everyone into Glen's base camp in just 10 minutes, they were discovered not long after. This was also the reason why Black Sister didn't believe in Yunjian again and questioned Yunjian's strength. However, Yu Shaluo had just asked Yunjian if she knew that they had been discovered by Glen early on, so she walked out at the bottom of the stairs and was deliberately caught by Glen and the others before being sent to the dungeon. And Yunjian actually replied that not only was all of this in her plan, even the fact that they were discovered by Glen was all done by Yunjian on purpose. Yunjian had deliberately let Glen discover them and capture all of them to the dungeon. Yunjian, what do you mean by that? You actually let Glen discover our whereabouts and then capture us. The dungeon is such a dangerous place, yet you didn't discuss it with us. You said that Glen would capture us and let us in. Have you ever thought about what if we can't get out after we go in? I can understand that you want to save your father, but you can't let all of us take the risk with you. Just now all of us were almost killed by you. Do you know that? Black Sister suddenly reacted. The reason why they were caught in the dungeon was all because of Yunjian. When she thought of the scenes in the dungeon, she thought of the former prison boss, Martial King, who used women as tools to vent his anger. Black Sister had lingering fear in her heart as she immediately spoke to Yunjian. In my world, there is no such word as if. If you say half a word of nonsense, I will kill you right now and let you completely shut your mouth. As Yunjian spoke, she snatched the pistol from Mu Ying's hand and loaded it with one hand. She directly pressed it against the temple of Black Sister, who was standing beside her and talking nonstop. Yunjian's eyes did not look at Heimei. She frowned slightly and looked straight ahead. The black-haired girl shuddered as the pistol was pressed against her temple. Yunjian's index finger hooked the pistol. The gun was already loaded. If Yunjian hooked it gently, her fate would be, in addition. Yunjian had just snatched the machine gun from the enemy's hands with her bare hands and annihilated all the enemies. She had killed without blinking. Black Sister felt as if she was being stared at by the Grim Reaper. This feeling made her feel suffocated. Hey Yunjian, don't be violent. Let's talk nicely. And Zheng Liang hurried over to stop them. At the same time, he looked pleadingly at Gu Junjian, hoping that Gu Junjian would say a few words for him. Xiao Jian, put the gun down. Gu Junjian chimed in. Just as Gu Junjian spoke, Yunjian lowered her hand that was pressed against the black-haired girl's temple. The black-haired girl breathed a sigh of relief. Just when everyone thought that Yunjian had let go because of Gu Junjian's persuasion, Yunjian's red arc curled as she chuckled eerily. It's here. Huh. What's here? Everyone was baffled when they heard Yunjian. They had walked out of the dungeon's entrance and were standing right in front of it. Everyone there, other than Muing, was bewildered when they heard Yin Jian's words. Yin Jian tossed the pistol she had snatched from Muing back to Muing before looking around a corner. In the next second, she curled her red arc and said, "Glenn, come out. Aren't you tired after watching for so long?" Glenn? Where was Glenn? Everyone tensed up in shock when they heard Yin Jian. Right now, everyone couldn't help but shiver when they heard the word Glenn. "Yin Jian, can you stop scaring us? There's no Glenn here. If he's really here, why hasn't he come out? Otherwise, we would have been discovered long ago." Black-haired girl thought that her judgment was correct this time. She had just spoken, but before she could finish her words, clap, clap, clap. A round of applause sounded. In the next second, a short, ordinary-looking old man in his 50s or 60s walked out from the corner that Yin Jian was looking at. Was this old man who exuded a menacing aura not Glenn? Everyone was shocked when they saw him. Glenn spoke abruptly, his words directed at Yin Jian. Chapter 1447. As Glenn spoke, he looked at Yin Jian with a probing gaze. As he spoke, Glenn had a cruel smile on his face, as if he already knew something incredible. It was a pity that Yin Jian did not fall for it. When she was slaying God, the top secret agent in the international ranking, Yin Jian did not mention that she was an old friend of Glenn's. At most, it was Glenn who invited Yin Jian to his base, and stood behind her with his head bowed like a pug. That was the truth. If Glenn knew Yin Jian's identity, he would not have spoken to her in such a tone. Glenn was just putting on an act. Glenn's appearance had frightened everyone present. And Zhengliang, Blackie, and the rest were shocked that Yin Jian could see Glenn hiding in the corner. At the same time, they were shocked by what Glenn said. He said that Yin Jian looked like the top international secret agent, slaying God? That was an extremely terrifying existence. Even as Interpol, they did not dare to come into contact with that existence. Gu Junjian was the only one who knew that Glenn's suspicion was right. Yin Jian was slaying God. Cut the crap. Let's do it. Yin Jian narrowed her eyes. She did not say anything else but said directly to Glenn. He, what an interesting young lady. Glenn smiled. His smile was more seductive than anyone else's. Glenn, you're old now. You might be able to live a few more years if you smile less. Stop beating around the bush. Just do it if you have the guts. Yin Jian shouted, provoking Glenn. That was the truth. Yin Jian was provoking Glenn by saying that. You. Glenn was angered by Yin Jian's words. Then he rolled his eyes and felt that he had heard Yin Jian say that somewhere before. Just as Glenn was trying to recall where he had heard Yin Jian say that, Blackie's voice rang again with a member of the criminal police force from Country H who was also from Country H. What should we do? What should we do? She actually went to provoke Glenn. Doesn't she know we're in Glenn's headquarters? She was so arrogant just because she had the ability. She didn't even let me scold her. I really don't like her. Ah! These words were said very softly, as if she was afraid that Glenn would hear her. Moreover, Black Sister, and this member of the criminal police brigade, who came from Country H with her spoke in their own country's language, Country H. People from H and Z looked almost the same. It was said that dating back to a long time ago, people from H and Z had the same ancestors. However, H country's language was completely different from Chinese. The reason why Miss Blackie spoke to the member of the criminal police brigade from Country H with her in the language of Country H was that she didn't want Yin Jian to understand what she meant. To put it bluntly, Heimei completely thought that Yin Jian couldn't speak H language, so she was so bold to say this in front of Yin Jian. Yin Jian raised her eyebrows. She didn't turn around to look at Miss Blackie, let alone pay attention to her. Instead, she pretended that she really couldn't speak H language. This way, Miss Blackie even more wantonly complained about Yin Jian in H language to the member of the criminal police brigade, who came from Country H with her. Just as Miss Blackie was getting more and more excited, Glenn suddenly exclaimed. He looked at Yin Jian and asked loudly, his pupils constricting. What did you say just now? What you said just now is exactly the same as what slaying God said to me back then. Could it be that you're... Glenn's sudden words made everyone's pupils constrict. However, at this moment, A loud sound of a helicopter came from above Glenn's headquarters. In the next second, a tall and handsome figure jumped down from the helicopter that was flying 7 to 8 meters high. The man who suddenly appeared was so handsome that everyone's eyes lit up the moment he appeared. Chapter 1448. After CE jumped down from the helicopter that was about 7 to 8 meters in the air, he stopped his momentum and straightened his body. He suddenly appeared, and the helicopter suddenly flew over, so everyone present was surprised. However, Yin Jian was not one of them. Yin Jian was only slightly surprised. Why was he here again? Although that was what she thought, Yin Jian's heart was still warm when she saw CE always appearing when she was in danger. Even Glenn was shocked when he saw CE's sudden appearance. He then looked at CE from head to toe. Everyone turned to look at the man who had jumped down from the helicopter, that was about 7 to 8 meters in the air. CE looked at Glenn with eyes as sharp as a hawk's after he jumped down. This glance caused Glenn to tremble slightly. Glenn, had been in the black market for decades. This was the first time he had felt the sharp gaze of a man in his 20s. His entire body involuntarily trembled for a while. However, CE's thin lips moved. He looked at Glenn with his sharp black eyes and said bluntly, "Glenn, the boss of the European and American underground black market. Who are you?" CE had already seen Yin Jian. However, he did not walk over to her directly this time. Instead, he looked at Glenn. Glenn initially thought that other than slaying God, who was ranked first on the international secret agent ranking, he would not lose his imposing manner in this world. However, he did not expect that today, not only did a young lady appear and attack his imposing manner, but now there was also a man who had such an imposing manner that he could not even speak. Glenn took a deep breath and replied to CE. "That's right, I'm Glenn. You are. Who I am is not important. What's important is that because of what you've done, your position as the boss of the European and American underground black market is gone," CE said coldly. Yin Jian saw that CE did not come over, so she walked over to CE. The people standing beside Yin Jian were stunned. Who was this man? What right did he have to say that Glenn's position as the boss of the European and American underground black market was gone? Just as he was thinking this, Yin Jian was already standing in front of Glenn. Seeing Yin Jian walk over, CE leaned to the side and reached out to grab Yin Jian's hand. What are you? Why do you say that my identity is gone?" Glenn didn't believe it and shouted. Xiao Jian. Good Junjian came to Yin Jian and CE and called out softly looking at Yin Jian and CE. "Oh good, do you know this man?" Yu Shaluo glanced at CE and walked over with the others. "This is my daughter's man," Good Junjian said proudly. With CE around, Good Junjian was not worried at all. CE and Yin Jian were capable people. Once they heard that such a handsome man was Yin Jian's man, the people standing beside Good Junjian looked over. Black girl's gaze was drawn to CE the moment she saw him. Glenn saw that the people standing in front of him were no longer afraid of him, especially after what CE said. He was infuriated. In the next second he growled into the dark, "Come out! Catch them! Catch all of them!" Glenn was still in the mood to tease Yin Jian just now, but he was only left with rage now. Glenn's men, who were originally hiding in the dark, only waited for Glenn's order to come out with machine guns on their shoulders. Despite Glenn's roar, there was no movement in the dark at all. Where are they? Where are they? Come out, all of you! Glenn was panicking now. No matter how capable Glenn was when he was young, he was old now and his ability was not what it used to be. If it were not for the group of powerful guards, he was at most a good for nothing. Chapter 1449. The words and Hun organization struck a chord in everyone's heart. Everyone was stunned by the deadly words. At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on the tall and handsome man. CE's words struck fear into everyone's heart. An Hun organization. Even Glenn, who was still panicking about his men's whereabouts, lost his voice and screamed. Shock, fear, all of these emotions surged into Glenn's heart at that moment. Glenn was not an ordinary person. He was the boss of Europe and America's underground black market. He was the symbol of the underground forces in Europe and America. Yu Shaluo and the rest who were standing in front were shocked when they heard Glenn scream. This man, or rather, Gu Yunjian's son-in-law, was related to the Enhun organization. Moreover, he could mobilize the Enhun organization to fight Glenn just because of this. This meant that CE was not an ordinary member of the Enhun organization. If that was the case, could it be that CE was... You're the boss of the Enhun organization. She's the #1 international secret agent, slaying God. Glenn was smart. He immediately identified CE and Yunjian. Enhun organization's boss? He's the boss of the Enhun organization. And Yunjian is the #1 international secret agent, slaying God. How is this possible? This is impossible. Blackie's pupils dilated in disbelief. She was so shocked that she shrieked on the spot. Blackie did not think of this at all. Even Gu Yunjian's eyes flickered. What do you mean impossible? Do you think I don't know slaying God? Her every move can't be imitated by outsiders. Every time she appears, it's a different face. And the Enhun organization. Do you think anyone can start a war with the Enhun organization just because they want to? Only the boss of the Enhun organization can command the entire Enhun organization. Don't think I can't tell. Glenn knew that he would not be able to escape death. Slaying God, the top international secret agent ranking, and the leader of Enhun were both here. It would be a miracle if he could survive. The day he stood in this position, Glenn knew that he would have this day. But before he died, he wanted to put Yunjian and CE in a difficult position, especially this group of criminal police officers. They probably didn't know. In fact, their most wanted criminals were the two people in front of them. Since you destroyed me, then I won't let you have it easy either. Glenn, don't know anything else in this life, but I'm good at judging people. Every word and action of slaying God matched perfectly with this young lady. She was not slaying God. Bullshit. Glenn was going to say something more. Before Glenn could finish, however, he was shot in his vitals by the muzzle of a silver pistol that CE pulled out, killing him instantly. On the way, Glenn didn't even have the chance to react. The reason Glenn was able to become the boss of Europe and America's underground black market was because he had a capable assistant named Kennerson. Kennerson's ability was comparable to the third on the international secret agent ranking. However, Enhun had no shortage of powerful people like CE. Any one of the 4 leaders of Enhun could kill Kennerson in a second. Therefore, Glenn would definitely die today. Yu Shaluo and the rest had yet to recover from the shock that Glenn had brought to them. Before they could react, Yunjian and CE came forward swiftly and knocked them out before they could react. Muing and Gu Junjian were not among those who were knocked out. Yunjian only stopped after Yu Shaluo, Sister Blackie and the rest drank Qing Yu's secret 3-hour amnesia liquid. They could not have their memories because Yunjian still needed to live in Country Z in the military academy. The fewer people who knew about her and CE's identities, the better. It was fortunate that Qing Yu's secret 3-hour amnesia liquid allowed one to forget 3 hours of memories painlessly without any side effects. Xiao Jian, what did you feed them? Gu Junjian asked with his mouth agape. Amnesia liquid. They'll forget everything that happened in the past 3 hours, Yunjian explained. After Yunjian's explanation, CE continued to speak to Gu Junjian. As a member of Interpol, father-in-law, you should be eager to eliminate the forces of Europe and America's underground black market. Now that the underground black market has been completely eradicated, you can report back to Interpol directly. CE paused before he continued to speak to Gu Junjian with a curvature. This is my first gift to you, father-in-law. I only want Xiaojian. The way he addressed CE as his father-in-law was smooth. As he spoke, he tightened his grip on Yunjian's hand in front of Gu Junjian. Yunjian's cheeks blushed. Dad can't see anything. Dad's eyesight is getting worse. Young lady, let's take a walk over there. It's cooler there. Chapter 1450. It was Yunjian's first time learning that Gu Junjian was a member of Interpol. She had never investigated Gu Junjian before, so she was not sure. However, these were all confidential information. Usually, such identities were not allowed to be revealed in the military. They were not even allowed to reveal a word about it to those closest to them. Watching Gu Junjian leave with Muing, Yunjian's lips curved into a faint smile. Gu Junjian reported the incident to Interpol in the end. In the end, all the credit was given to Gu Junjian and the rest. This was also Ce and Yunjian's intention. Yunjian, in particular, did not want to be crowned with a new title in her daily life. Yunjian did not want to experience it, especially when she won first place in the military training field and became the center of attention in school. That was why she allowed Gu Junjian and the rest to take all the credit. However, as the only person who managed to escape from the dungeon, the special forces and members of various countries who were rescued from the dungeon later could not be forgotten. It was just that everyone only knew that there was a teenage girl who was the first to successfully escape from the dungeon with someone else. As for who Yunjian was, it was a figure that would be mentioned in the international news. All in all, an Hun group had helped Interpol to eradicate an international cancer. Everyone in Interpol knew about it. However, an Hun group had done a good deed and retreated quickly. Yu Shaluo and the rest were in a daze, not knowing what had happened in the past 3 hours. Gu Junjian brushed them off and did not pursue the matter further. That night, Yunjian and Gu Junjian were sent back to Longmen City by Siyi's helicopter. The next day was Saturday, and the food festival was held on Friday. Saturday was Qin Yiru's birthday. On the day she returned home, Yunjian did not wish Qin Yiru happy birthday early in the morning. She made an appointment with her friends and planned to pick out a gift for Qin Yiru in the afternoon. Gu Junjian did not say anything to Qin Yiru and went shopping with his old comrade. Everyone had left early in the morning. Qin Yiru did not even remember that it was her birthday today. She could not help but wonder why everyone had left so early in the morning. Never in her wildest dreams would she have imagined that this person had not gone out to play, but to buy her a birthday present. Yunjian made an appointment with Lu Fian. Chun Sini couldn't come out because she had something to do. Lu Fian was the first friend he had met since he was reborn in Xinjiang town. Come to think of it, today was the first time the two of them had met a year ago. Some time ago, Lu Fian was disappointed when she found out that Yunjian had gone to Min City after she had finally gotten into a school in Longmen City. Yunjian waited for Lu Fian at the entrance of a coffee shop where they had agreed to meet. After waiting for about half a minute, Lu Fian, who was carrying a small backpack, hurriedly ran over. There was another girl beside Lu Fian. Phew, almost late, haha. Lu Fian chuckled and studied Yunjian from head to toe before telling her. Xiao Jian, you haven't gotten tanner after a month of military training. Your skin is so good. Lu Fian chortled and introduced the friend beside her to Yunjian. This is a friend I made in the new school. Her name is Wang Cancan. She has good taste and can help you pick out a birthday present for your mom. Lu Fian introduced Yunjian as she spoke. Wang Cancan was a friendly girl. After introducing herself to Yunjian, she struck up a conversation with Yunjian. Although Wang Cancan looked innocent, she was a tough woman in her bones and yearned for a superhuman life. A girl like her got along well with Yunjian. She was generous and did not fuss over minor matters. Let's go to the mall later to buy a birthday present. It's a newly opened mall, and there's a lot of stuff inside. There's also a tour of the most exciting and terrifying haunted houses in the country. I heard that Fatty Wang, Ergo, and the others from our class are scared out of their wits even though they're so brave. Haha, let's go take a look if we have time after buying our birthday presents, okay? Wang Cancan asked Lu Fian and Yunjian generously. If Lu Fian and Yunjian declined, she would not mention it again. Wang Cancan was not one to fuss over trivial matters. Yunjian recalled what Wang Cancan said. Chun Sini had mentioned the haunted house before, and said that she wanted to go. Chapter 1451. Then let's hurry over. Let's take a taxi from here. The mall is quite far from here. Wang Cancan was pleasantly surprised when she heard that. She was carrying a bear cub satchel that matched Lu Fian's. She immediately pinched the bear cub satchel that she was carrying and said excitedly to Lu Fian and Yunjian. Lu Fian had a bear cub satchel that looked almost the same as Wang Cancan's. This satchel was very small and the workmanship of the satchel was very exquisite. In addition, Lu Fian and Wang Cancan were both wearing small skirts that matched the satchel very well. Both of their figures were quite good and looked like clothes hangers. Coupled with this tight satchel, they were simply beautiful. Wang Cancan stood on the road and hailed a taxi. Then she, Lu Fian, and Yun Jian sat in the back seat of the taxi. As soon as they got into the car, Wang Cancan had no intention of alienating Yun Jian. She whispered to Lu Fian and Yun Jian. Although she was separated from Yun Jian by Lu Fian, she still said to Yun Jian through Lu Fian, "Trust me. Today, I'll definitely help you choose a gift that your mother will love. Haha. Look. This satchel matches our outfits very well, right? I chose this. Hehe." Wang Cancan didn't mean anything else. Yun Jian and Lu Fian hadn't seen each other for a long time. Similarly, Lu Fian would definitely have a new circle of friends. Like today, when Lu Fian and Yun Jian met, but brought along her high school classmate and friend, Yun Jian was in a very awkward situation. In a group of 3, there would always be one person who would be awkward. And that person was none other than Yun Jian. Wang Cancan had experienced this feeling of being ridiculed before. She really couldn't bring herself to continue chatting with Lu Fian and then ridicule Yun Jian. "It's very beautiful. I trust your judgment." Yun Jian smiled back. Along the way, the 3 of them kept discussing their school life. In fact, Yun Jian was the one who listened. Wang Cancan and Lu Fian kept chatting. Then as they talked, they asked Yun Jian a question. When Lu Fian mentioned to Wang Cancan that Yun Jian was studying in the military academy, Wang Cancan's eyes lit up as he looked at Yun Jian. Wang Cancan wanted to be a superwoman. The moment she heard that Yun Jian was studying at a military academy, she was so excited that she stepped past Lu Fian and grabbed Yun Jian's hand. "Yun Jian, I've always admired soldiers who protect our country. Especially a girl like you who actually chose to go to a military school. I feel that this requires perseverance and courage. It's a very admirable move." Wang Cancan's actions made Yun Jian smile softly, and she replied with 2 sentences. However, just as he said that, the taxi driver's words were heard. "We've arrived at the dynamic shopping center. The 3 little sisters can get off now." After paying the fare and alighting, Wang Cancan brought Yun Jian and Lu Fian to a milk tea shop in the dynamic shopping center to buy milk tea. I took a look. The haunted house is in the basement of the dynamic shopping center. Should we go there first or pick a present for your mom first? Wang Cancan asked Yun Jian from her seat. "Let's go to the haunted house first. Xiao Jian, are you okay with that? We don't have to carry the present for Auntie when we enter the haunted house. It'll be bad if we're too scared and break the present. What do you think, Xiao Jian?" Lu Fian asked for Yun Jian's permission. "I'm fine with anything." Yun Jian was not picky. Just as Yun Jian said that, one of the teenagers sitting at the table next to the milk tea shop poked his head over to ask, "Hey, are you guys going to the haunted house in the basement of the dynamic shopping center too? I heard that it's super scary. It's the scariest hospital-themed haunted house in the history of the Guinness Book of Records. The haunted house's name is Swordsmanship Mental Hospital. There's a strict rule there. They say that girls must be accompanied by strong men. You 3 girls might be stopped if you go alone." Chapter 1452. It was true that Szechuan Medical Hospital was the scariest themed hospital in the history of Guinness World Records. The boy did not spout nonsense. It was obvious that he was here to hook up with Yun Jian and the girls. So when he said this, the boy immediately changed his tune. "We're going to the haunted house in the basement as well. Aren't you girls afraid to go alone? Why don't we team up and go together?" The boy spoke to Yun Jian and the girls in a roguish tone. Szechuan Medical Hospital had been in Longmen City for a week now. It was only a week's time. After a week, the people from Szechuan Medical Hospital would be leaving for the next haunted house location. Due to the reputation of Szechuan Medical Hospital, and the fact that it was limited to 1,000 visitors per day, there were many who came from other places just to experience the scariest haunted house in the history of Guinness World Records. Therefore, not only did Longmen City's residents rush to Szechuan Medical Hospital, Even people from other provinces came to visit. The place was packed every day. Just as the boy said that, Yin Jian's cold voice rang. No need. Yin Jian's reply made the boy's face freeze. The boy did not expect Yin Jian to reject him so easily. The milk tea is here. Let's pack it up and take it away. There must be a lot of people queuing at the entrance of Swordsmanship Medical Hospital. Let's line up at the entrance and the milk tea will probably run out by the time it's our turn. Lu Fian had gone to get the milk tea earlier and told Yin Jian and Wang Cancan when she came back from the front desk. Lu Fian had heard half of what the boy said to Yin Jian and Wang Cancan just now. Yin Jian stood up at once while Wang Cancan glared at the guy who tried to strike up a conversation with her before following Yin Jian and Lu Fian to where they were. The boy was obviously deflated. He touched the bridge of his nose and smiled innocently at the boy and girl sitting beside him. After Yin Jian and the other two left, another boy, who was obviously the boy's brother, put his arm around the boy's shoulder and teased him with a laugh. Zhou Dongxuan, I didn't expect you to fail at picking up girls. Ha ha ha. Look, those 3 girls didn't even look at you. No matter what, you're still the school hunk of second high. How come you don't even have this bit of charm today? The boy teased the boy named Zhou Dongxuan. Go go go. Surnamed Lu, don't talk too much. And those 3 girls? I believe we'll meet them again later. The boy named Zhou Dongxuan blinked his eyes and said expectantly. Yin Jian and the other 2 had already arrived at the basement. Swordsmanship Medical Hospital had built the temporary office in the basement. The registration was done there, and there was a queue to get in. After buying the tickets and lining up, Wang Cancan and Lu Fian were both excited and scared. Sipping the milk tea in her hand, Wang Cancan said to Yin Jian and Lu Fian, Are you guys scared? Once I think about how we're going to enter the haunted house, my heart squeezes. Wang Cancan had just finished speaking when she saw Yin Jian acting like it was none of her business. She paused and could not help asking in surprise, What's the matter? Aren't you scared? Swordsmanship Medical Hospital is the scariest hospital-themed haunted house in history. I heard that many people wet their pants inside. Scared? Why should I be scared? Yin Jian looked at Wang Cancan and Lu Fian's nervous and scared faces, and was confused. Because this is a haunted house. Little girl, if you're scared, don't hold it in. Scream when you need to. Young people, don't pretend to be calm. Chapter 1453. Even the auntie next to them could not stand it anymore. The auntie was holding the hand of her 12-year-old daughter, because it was almost their turn to enter Swordsmanship Mental Hospital. She was already panicking enough, and now she heard Yin Jian's casual words. The auntie had nowhere to vent her anger, so she used a voice that sounded like a nosy woman to scold Yin Jian. However, Yin Jian ignored her. We meet again. Haha. Ladies, looks like we are quite fated to meet again. When the line started to dwindle, a ruffian male voice came from behind them. The man's voice was ruffian, but Yin Jian could recognize him from the voice. She did not even need to turn to know who the ruffian voice behind her, Lu Fian, and Wang Cancan belonged to. Wasn't this the voice of the man who had tried to flirt with them at the milk tea shop? Zhou Dongxuan looked at Yin Jian's group happily. He did not expect to run into Yin Jian's group again so soon. Regarding the fact that they were about to enter the haunted house, everyone present expressed their fear. However, as a man of honor, Zhou Dongxuan felt like he should act bravely before the girls. Especially in such a scary haunted house, if the girls were scared, they might even crawl into his arms. Just the thought of it was enough to make him excited. Therefore, Zhou Dongxuan started to flirt with Yin Jian's group even more. I'm not lying to you. The girls here really don't allow us to enter directly. Swordsmanship Mental Hospital is different from other haunted houses. It is the scariest haunted house in history with a hospital theme. I heard someone was scared to death here before. Therefore, the girls have to be accompanied by strong men. Zhou Dongxuan was not lying about that. Yin Jian had already seen it from the notice board in the distance. She pursed her lips. Then can you bring us in with you? Just bring us in, and we'll split up once we're inside, Wang Cancan asked Zhou Dongxuan. Sure. We have 5 people here. The three of you can form a team and go in," Zhou Dongxuan said generously. At the same time, he glanced at Yin Jian. Yin Jian didn't say anything this time. Zhou Dongxuan was the school hunk of Longmen City's No. 2 high school. A guy like him who looked handsome to others was bound to be pursued by girls. For example, the two girls who had been following Zhou Dongxuan were Zhou Dongxuan's admirers. However, it was a pity that these two girls' looks were very ordinary. Usually, they relied on heavy makeup to support their looks and often mingled with Zhou Dongxuan's group. When walking outside to play, boys like Zhou Dongxuan, who had strong self-esteem, liked to bring two girls along at all times, even if they didn't like the girls. They only brought the girls because they could show off in front of the girls at any time. However, Zhou Dongxuan now had better candidates, and that was Yun Jian and the other two. Not only were Yun Jian and the girls prettier than the two girls he brought along, they were also pretty and attractive. It made Zhou Dongxuan want to appear like a hero saving the damsel in distress in the haunted house when the trio wanted to hide under the floorboards out of fear. Tsk. Zhou Dongxuan was thrilled just thinking about it. Especially showing off that he was not afraid of any ghosts in the haunted house to show off his masculinity. How fun could this be? Zhou Dongxuan was the school hunk of Longmen City's No. 2 high school after all. Although the two girls who came with him looked average, they were dressed rather fashionably with heavy makeup. Both of them wanted to attract Zhou Dongxuan's attention, but they did not expect him to invite Yun Jian and the girls. This caused the jealousy of the two girls to instantly swell. One of the girls, who had red lips and a thick layer of foundation, said to Zhou Dongxuan in an unconvinced tone, "What are you doing? Dongxuan, why did you invite them to come with us? They look so timid. They'll probably scream once they go in. What if they're too scared to leave the haunted house? They'll drag us down. Wang Qiaoyu, say one more word and you'll leave on your own." Zhou Dongxuan roared at the girl with a dark face. Dongxuan. Wang Qiaoyu was enraged when she heard him. She did not say anything else after that. Soon, it was Yun Jian and the girls' turn to enter the haunted house. The haunted house had a rule that the girls had to be accompanied by strong men. Zhou Dongxuan's group of 5 consisted of 2 girls and 3 guys. The 3 guys could be considered strong men. There were usually 4 to 6 people entering, but Zhou Dongxuan's group, including Yun Jian and the girls, had a total of 8 people. The staff of Swordsmanship Medical Hospital gave it some thought and agreed. They then distributed 2 sets of tools to Yun Jian and the girls. 2 flashlights and 2 shields. Yun Jian took one of the flashlights. As for the shields, Yun Jian gave them to Lu Fian and Wang Cancan. Just like that, the 8 of them walked into the dark entrance of the haunted house. The haunted house took up 3 floors of basement, and the whole structure was based on the theme of a hospital. Therefore, the moment they stepped in, they could feel a chill coming from inside. Zhou Dongxuan and the others shuddered, and then slowly continued to walk forward. Yun Jian walked lazily, like she was taking a stroll in her own backyard. Yun Jian's action shocked Zhou Dongxuan, but it also caused Wang Qiaoyu to grumble. "Haha. Stop acting so mysterious. Let's see how long you can last." Just as he finished speaking, a woman covered in blood suddenly stood up from a large bathtub covered in blood in front of everyone. No one expected a woman covered in blood to stand up from the empty bathtub. At this time, Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the girls were so shocked by the sudden appearance of the woman that they screamed and covered their mouths. When everyone looked up, they saw that Yun Jian was not at all intimidated by the woman who was covered in blood. Instead, she went to the woman and studied her from head to toe before she grinned. Chapter 1454. Yun Jian's words shocked the woman who had appeared out of nowhere, who was also the staff member. Usually, when a student of Yun Jian's age suddenly saw a female ghost emerging from the bathtub with blood all over her face, their reaction would have been as intense as Zhou Dongxuan and Wang Qiaoyu's. Even Lu Fian and Wang Cancan, who came with Yun Jian, could not help screaming when they saw the female ghost. One of the main reasons why Swordsmanship Medical Hospital was so scary was that the staff members acted as ghosts very realistically. The makeup technology turned the workers from normal humans into zombies or zombies. In fact, inside the haunted house, the workers would use the method of zombies to chase after the visitors, giving the visitors the feeling that they were in the haunted house. Szechuan Medical Hospital, Longmen City Station, was a large-scale haunted house that toured the country. There were dozens of medical scenes, abandoned hospitals, gory scenes, and insane doctors, nurses, and directors. Zombies crisscrossed, maze-like routes, terrifying traps, and secret passages. The visitors had to be on high alert during the game, because there was no telling when the ghosts would appear before them, as zombies were everywhere. The female ghost hiding in the bleeding bathtub was just the beginning. In spite of it, the female ghost hiding in the bathtub was enough to scare everyone to death. Zhou Dongxuan and the other two boys who wanted to show off in front of the girls shrieked like the girls. When Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the rest, including Lu Fian and Wang Cancan, heard that Yun Jian was not afraid of the female ghost's sudden appearance, she even went up to reprimand the ghost for not being scary enough. This immediately eased the tension in the atmosphere. Zhou Dongxuan and the rest, who were scared half to death, just now snapped back to reality. Due to Yun Jian's words, the female ghost, who was disguised as a staff member standing in the bathtub, was stunned. She was completely stunned. After all, which girl who came to a haunted house to play did not scream or panic when she suddenly saw a ghost or hide behind a man to beg for protection? Instead, the ghost stood in front of her and told her that there was not enough blood? How could such makeup skills tell that she was a staff member at once? How was this little girl supposed to act like a little girl? This time, it was the staff member who was acting as a ghost who was taken aback by Yun Jian. Even though they knew that the female ghost standing in the bathtub was a worker in disguise, Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the others were too scared to approach Yun Jian. Lu Fian and Wang Cancan, on the other hand, came to stand beside Yun Jian one after another when they snapped out of it. You're crazy. We came to come to the haunted house to have fun. If you say it like this, it won't be fun anymore. Wang Qiaoyu grabbed Yun Jian's ponytail and screamed. Wang Qiaoyu was already unhappy with Yun Jian, so she found an opportunity to scold Yun Jian. What are you talking about? What right do you have to criticize Yun Jian? When we came in, I said that we would split up after entering the haunted house. Now you can go in your own group, and the three of us will go in a group. Don't walk together. Wang Cancan saw that Wang Qiaoyu was obviously not friendly to Yun Jian, so she shouted at Wang Qiaoyu, Zhou Dongxuan, and the others. Then she pulled Yun Jian and Lu Fian to the side. After taking 2 steps, Zhou Dongxuan urged them to stay. Hey, don't. Let's go together. My classmate didn't do it on purpose. I'll teach her a lesson. Then Zhou Dongxuan turned around and scolded Wang Qiaoyu. This scolding indeed made Wang Qiaoyu shut her mouth, but it made her even angrier at Yun Jian and the other two. Wang Cancan wanted to pull Yun Jian and Lu Fian away, but looking at the darkness ahead and the zombies that could jump out at any time, she paused and followed Zhou Dongxuan. The group of people continued to move forward. On the way, Zhou Dongxuan asked Yun Jian, "Aren't you afraid?" "Why should I be afraid? This level of haunted house is not at the same level as Fujigyo Haunted House. Fujigyo Haunted House is not scary at all. This level of haunted house can't scare people." Yun Jian said this sentence very calmly. However, these words were very different in the ears of Wang Qiaoyu and the others. Fujigyo Haunted House was recognized as the world's most terrifying haunted house. Have you been to Fujigyo Haunted House? Don't talk to us as if you've been everywhere, okay? You make it sound like you've really been to Fujigyo Haunted House. Chapter 1455. Wang Qiaoyu did not believe that Yun Jian had been to Fujigyo Haunted House. After all, it was widely acknowledged as the scariest haunted house in the world. Generally, to explore a large-scale haunted house like Fujigyo Haunted House, not only did one need wealth, but more importantly, courage. Perhaps Swordsmanship Medical Hospital was scary enough, and was widely acknowledged as the scariest mobile haunted house, but it was mobile after all. The setting was improvised. Fujigyo Haunted House, however, was different. Fujigyo Haunted House used an abandoned local hospital as its backdrop, But the difference was that Fujiji Haunted House had chosen an abandoned hospital as its backdrop. Furthermore, the theme of the haunted house was also a hospital, so the illusion created in real life was naturally different from Saga Hospital, which was a makeshift hospital. There were people who were scared to death in Fujiji Haunted House every year, but many were willing to sign up for the adventure. Putting aside whether Yunjian dared to go or not, Fujiji Haunted House was located overseas after all, and Yunjian did not look like a rich person at all. That was why Zhang Qiaoyu dared to speak to Yunjian in such a tone just now. It doesn't matter if I've been there or not. What's important is that I know now that you've definitely not been there. Yunjian held the flashlight in the dark, her lips curling into a mocking smirk. Yunjian's words were profound, and if one listened carefully, was she not implying that Wang Qiaoyu was ignorant? Wang Qiaoyu was the kind of girl who didn't take her studies seriously in school. She hung out with a group of hooligans in society, and hung out with boys all day long. She smoked and drank and felt that she was special, as if she was the only one in the world who was the best. Therefore, once Yunjian said that, Wang Qiaoyu spat in anger. Do you have a death wish? Do you know who I am? My brother works for Longmen City's top mafia group, Falcon Hall. He's in the underworld. You'd better know your place. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson. Wang Qiaoyu threatened Yunjian right away. Wang Qiaoyu's brother was not her biological brother. It could be said that he was just a brother she recognized in the underworld. This kind of familial relationship was very popular among Wang Qiaoyu's group. Wang Qiaoyu, I won't invite you to play with us anymore. Zhou Dongxuan yelled at Wang Qiaoyu before Yunjian could reply. He had finally managed to persuade Yunjian and the others to stay with them. In the end, with Wang Qiaoyu's provocation, what if Yunjian and the others refused to leave with them? After Wang Qiaoyu was yelled at by Zhou Dongxuan, she immediately shut her mouth. Wang Qiaoyu wanted to pursue Zhou Dongxuan, so Zhou Dongxuan's words were fatal to her. In spite of it, Wang Qiaoyu loathed Yunjian even more. At this time, they had already walked a long way and arrived at a new theme room. The new theme room was a morgue. As soon as they arrived, Wang Qiaoyu and the others, who were still talking, immediately tensed up and didn't dare to go forward. Even though he knew that this was a haunted house, he was still afraid. 3 beds appeared in front of everyone. There were 3 people lying on the beds, and each of them was covered with a white cloth. The surrounding background was painted with horrifying images. Just the torchlight alone was enough to send chills down one's spine. The group stopped in their tracks in fright, not daring to go forward, because no one knew what was lying on the 3 beds. In addition, there was no light here, so they could only rely on the torchlight to illuminate their surroundings. Go. Go go go. Follow me, follow me. Zhou Dongxuan said in a trembling voice. He looked to the side and told Yunjian, don't be scared, just follow me. She was gone when he turned around. Wang Qiaoyu's exclamation came from the side. Chapter 1456. Normal girls dared not linger in a haunted house's morgue for too long. Some girls would even clutch their boyfriend's clothes tightly and bury their heads in their boyfriend's arms, crying coquettishly, "It's too scary. Sob sob sob. I don't want to come to this haunted house anymore." What about Yunjian? Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the others did not even dare to move forward out of fear, but Yunjian was different. She walked over and lifted the white cloth without a word. Usually, the scariest thing when passing by a morgue was the 3 beds where the corpses, under the white cloth, suddenly came alive. The sense of terror tugged at everyone's heartstrings, enough to scare them out of their wits. Not only was Yunjian unafraid, she walked over and lifted the white cloth herself. This scene caused Wang Qiaoyu to let out a loud "ah." Even Zhou Dongxuan's face fell from the shock. What lay under the white cloth was a crazed zombie. It was obvious that any living ghost in a haunted house was disguised by the staff. In spite of it, this zombie's disguise was surprisingly realistic. Not only was the makeup realistic, the face was as pale as a dead person's and its eyes were bulging. Just looking at it was enough to send chills down one's spine. What was even scarier was that it was growling like a zombie. Zombie. It's a zombie. Wang Qiaoyu was so scared that she clutched her dress tightly. She took 2 steps back and almost fell onto Zhou Dongxuan. The moment Yun Jian lifted the white cloth, the zombie lunged at Yun Jian and growled in terror. Even Zhou Dongxuan was pale from fright. His foot froze on the spot. Even his plan to save the damsel in distress was tossed to the back of his mind. Ah! Xiao Jian. Lu Fian and Wang Cancan, on the other hand, forgot that they were in a haunted house after Lu Fian's shout. Perhaps it was because the zombies' acting was too realistic. The two of them did not think twice and rushed towards Yun Jian, trying to save Yun Jian. That zombie was obviously a staff member in disguise, but it was so realistic that everyone present believed that it was a real zombie. At least, Lu Fian and Wang Cancan really thought they had seen a ghost. They had forgotten that they were inside a haunted house, and were focused on saving Yun Jian. Seeing this, Yun Jian only slightly narrowed her eyes. Be careful. Zhou Dongxuan really wanted to rush up and save the damsel in distress, but he didn't dare. It was as if his foot was fixed in place with glue, and he couldn't lift it up. He could only blame this zombie for being too realistic. He even felt scared when he looked directly at this zombie, not to mention rushing up to save the damsel in distress. The series of events happened in a short 5 seconds. Far away, where everyone could see, just as Yun Jian lifted the white cloth, the zombie pounced on Yun Jian. The scene shocked everyone present. In spite of it, something even more shocking happened. Just as the zombie was about to pounce on Yun Jian reached out and grabbed the zombie's collar accurately without even looking up, yanking the zombie to the side forcefully. The zombie fell to the ground after being pulled by Yun Jian and quickly got up, looking at Yun Jian as if she was a ghost before running away. He didn't need to look to know that the zombie was male. Needless to say, this male was a staff member. In the end, Yun Jian was so strong that she pulled the male staff to the side. More importantly, they heard from others that it was the zombies that chased them when they entered the haunted house. Why was it that Yun Jian was the one who scared the zombies away? Chapter 1457. Xiaojian. LV Fian and Wang Cancan had already reached Yun Jian. LV Fian grabbed Yun Jian's hand and shouted, "Are you okay? Why would the zombies in the haunted house attack people? Why haven't I heard of it before?" Wang Cancan asked in surprise as she stood beside Yun Jian. Zhuachuan Medical Hospital is famous because its haunted house allows visitors to experience the most realistic sense of horror. Of course, these staff members disguised as zombies will only touch us at most to scare us. They won't hurt us. It was only then that Zhou Dongxuan snapped out of his shock when he saw the staff member who was disguised as a zombie scampering out of the room in fear of Yun Jian. After waiting for a while, and making sure that the other 2 zombies would not come out of the other 2 beds, Zhou Dongxuan went to Yun Jian and spoke. As he spoke, when he reached Yun Jian and saw Yun Jian looking at him, Zhou Dongxuan even flashed a smile at Yun Jian. In spite of it, Yun Jian was not looking at him. She turned and her gaze paused on LV Fian and Wang Cancan's faces. "Let's go. Grab my clothes if you're scared." Yun Jian continued to walk toward the haunted house's passageway as she spoke. "Hey, aren't you guys going to wait for us?" Zhou Dongxuan called out to Yun Jian when he saw that Yun Jian was leading LV Fian and Wang Cancan forward without any intention of paying attention to them. "There's no need for that." Yun Jian did not even look at Zhou Dongxuan, who was behind her. She gave a curt reply and strode forward with LV Fian and Wang Cancan. Zhou Dongxuan wanted to follow, but his friend pulled him back and said, "Dongxuan, are you dumb? Can't you tell that the girl doesn't want you to follow?" Zhou Dongxuan could only watch as Yun Jian slipped away from him. With Yun Jian leading the way, Lu Fian and Wang Cancan had nothing to say no matter how frightened they were. Moreover, whenever a group of zombies or ghosts appeared, they would be frightened by Yun Jian's words or her shocking actions. Some of them even covered their heads and ran away. "Damn Yun Jian, you're too amazing." She was like a superwoman, not afraid of any demons or ghosts. "You're my idol." Wang Cancan gestured exaggeratedly and said to Yun Jian. Wang Cancan had always hoped that she could become a superwoman, but she also knew that it was all just a fantasy. But Yunjian's stunning performance just now made Wang Kankan feel as if he had seen a superwoman. Even his heart trembled. Yunjian, Yunjian, from now on you're my idol. When Wang Kankan said this, Yunjian, Wang Kankan, and Lu Fian were already sitting in the coffee shop. Yunjian placed an Italian coffee in front of her. Her slender index finger hooked the semicircular curve of the coffee cup, and her red lips curved up slightly. Hey, did you guys hear? The Swordsmanship mental hospital in the basement of the mall stopped all visitors from entering halfway. Even the visitors who bought tickets were stopped. Damn, that's so cruel. What the hell is going on? Hey, you don't know. I have first-hand news here. I heard that a young girl just gave the staff of Swordsmanship Mental Hospital a huge scare. A few of the staff members who were acting as ghosts even complained that the ghosts they were acting as were too unrealistic, and were severely criticized. In the end, the staff refused to work and all of them said that they wanted to go on strike. My God, which family is this young girl from? She's so fierce. That's so scary. People are scared half to death when they enter a haunted house, but she scared the ghosts so much that they refused to work. Chapter 1458. Perhaps because this was such a rare occurrence, it had already spread among the customers in the cafe. The discussion was endless, and they all shared the same topic. A teenage girl had just entered Swordsmanship Mental Hospital, and she had scared the workers who were dressed up as ghosts into going on strike. Now even the customers who had bought tickets could not enter Swordsmanship Mental Hospital because the workers had gone on strike. Without the workers acting as ghosts or zombies, even if the visitors entered the haunted house, they would not be able to experience the real terror. If more visitors entered the haunted house, Swordsmanship Mental Hospital's reputation would be ruined. Therefore, they decided to temporarily close the haunted house. After all, Swordsmanship Mental Hospital was a world-famous haunted house, and protecting its reputation was more important than losing a few hundred visitors' ticket money. The chatter of the people around her drifted into Yunjian's ears without missing a word. In response, Yunjian narrowed her eyes slightly. At this time, Wang Kankan was holding a cup of tea. She slowly put the cup of espresso to her lips and took a sip. Hearing the discussion around her, Wang Kankan spat out the coffee in her mouth. Thankfully, just as the coffee was about to spill, Wang Kankan lowered her head in time, and the mouthful of coffee only landed on the floor. What are the people talking about? The person they were talking about who scared the ghost half to death was none other than Yunjian. That person was none other than Yunjian. Other than Yunjian, who else could it be? Wang Kankan instantly stood up from his seat in shock, looking as if he had seen a ghost. The person they're talking about is not little. Lu Fian was about to say Yunjian's name, when an unfriendly voice came from behind her. Lu Fian? Wang Kankan? Haha, so it's you two cowards? A loud voice came from behind. It was a woman's voice. Her tone was very unfriendly, as if LV Fian and Wang Kankan owed her millions of dollars. Suddenly, LV Fian and Wang Kankan heard a familiar voice and turned around to look at the person standing behind them. Yunjian was sitting opposite LV Fian and Wang Kankan, so she could clearly see the appearance of the girl standing behind LV Fian and Wang Kankan. She was a girl with delicate features. She had a small face, big eyes, and a straight nose. No matter how you looked at her, her facial features were very three-dimensional. Just by looking at this kind of girl, one would think that she was a good girl. But how could one expect such a beautiful girl to say such unkind words? This made Yunjian raise her eyebrows slightly. Chun-Li Mei? Why are you here? Wang Kankan turned around. When she saw the girl's face, she couldn't help but cry out in shock. Hee, why can't I be here when you're here? Last week, you said you were going to Swordsmanship Mental Hospital to play. Are you staying here because you don't have the courage to go to the basement? You said you were so powerful last week, but now you're looking at it? Are your legs already shaking before you even enter? Also, the person who accompanied me to the haunted house today is Senior Duan Ming. Oh he. As soon as the girl called Chun-Li Mei finished speaking, Wang Kankan immediately raised her voice. You actually let Senior Duan Ming accompany you to the haunted house to play? When the words Senior Duanming were mentioned, Yin Jian saw that Wang Cancan's eyes instantly lit up. It was the kind of light that gave birth to love. Chapter 1459. Chun Limei was Wang Cancan and Lu Fian's classmate. Chun Limei, Wang Cancan, and Lu Fian usually minded their own business, and did not get along or interact with each other. But the problem was that Chun Limei and Wang Cancan both secretly liked that Senior Duanming. Chun Limei and Wang Cancan were classmates, and as for the Senior Duanming that Chun Limei mentioned, he was in the second year of high school. Because of Senior Duanming, Chun Limei and Wang Cancan's relationship in class worsened. There was even one time when they got into a fight in the classroom. Wang Cancan and Duanming were in the same junior high school. Wang Cancan liked Duanming since the first year, but she dared not confess. In the end, when she finally got into the same high school as Duanming, Chun Limei began to pursue him. Although Duanming had a few girlfriends, Wang Cancan still liked him because she always felt that Duanming was just playing around with those girls. Last week, Wang Cancan and Chun Limei had exchanged insults in school. Chun Limei even provoked her by saying that if she had the guts, she should let Wang Cancan walk around Swichuan Medical Hospital that had just moved into Longmen City recently. Wang Cancan went as she pleased. Who was afraid of whom? This was how the grudge was resolved. Wang Cancan did not expect to run into Chun Limei here, nor did she expect her to be so bold as to ask Senior Duanming out. You. Just as Wang Cancan wanted to say a few words of rebuttal, Chun Limei said cockily, "Yesterday Senior Duanming and I. We also went out shopping. Oh my Senior Duanming got a room in a hotel. And then we already." Impossible. Senior Duanming would never do such a thing with you. You're lying. Wang Cancan shouted before Chun Limei could finish. To Wang Cancan, Senior Duanming was her everything. She had a crush on Senior Duanming since the first year of junior high, and it had been 3 whole years now. It was not that she had not interacted with Senior Duanming in these 3 years. But when was he not acting like a gentleman? He was not the kind of person who would play around with women like Chun Limei said. Oh haha. Chun Limei's smile widened when she saw Wang Cancan's reaction. Yin Jian was sitting opposite Wang Cancan. Wang Cancan turned her head and looked at Chun Limei. Yin Jian could see their every word and action clearly. Humph. In any case, Senior Duanming will be accompanying me into the haunted house later. From what I see, you guys are so scared that you don't even dare to enter Swichuan Mental Hospital's main entrance, right? Ha ha ha. Chun Limei had no idea that Wang Cancan had already visited the haunted house with Yun Jian and Lu Fian. Her tone was laced with mockery. When she saw Yun Jian, who was sitting opposite Wang Cancan and Lu Fian, looking as exquisite and beautiful as a fairy, Chun Limei's unhappy expression immediately appeared. In the past, Chun Limei looked like a real fairy when she stood in the crowd. However, the moment she saw Yun Jian's face, even Chun Limei had to admit that she was inferior to Yun Jian. Yo, who is this? Is Wang Cancan your friend? Heh, she looks so thin and weak. Is she also going to Swichuan Mental Hospital? That's a haunted house. It's very, very scary. I think a girl like her, before she even enters the haunted house, her feet should be shaking like a spring, right? Ha ha. Chun Limei pointed at Yun Jian. Due to Yun Jian's beauty and the fact that she was Wang Cancan's friend, Chun Limei harbored no good intentions toward her. She sneered at her the moment she opened her mouth, spewing all the insults she could think of. You guys are here? I finally found you. Just now you guys didn't wait for us and left the haunted house by yourself. I thought you guys had already left. Chapter 1460. Just as Chun Limei was questioning Yun Jian's ability, Zhou Dongshuan's voice suddenly rang out from the haunted house with Yun Jian's group. Hearing this, Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly. Chun Limei saw that Yun Jian did not refute her immediately, so she thought that Yun Jian had nothing to say. Yun Jian was afraid of entering the haunted house. There was no mistake about that. However, Chun Limei had miscalculated, completely miscalculated. When Zhou Dongshuan's voice rang out, Chun Limei was still confused. What's going on? What happened? Who startled the staff? Now the workers at the haunted house refused to work? Yunjian? Could Yunjian be referring to her? Before this, Chun Li-mei did not know that Yunjian's name was Yunjian, because no one had introduced her to Chun Li-mei. Following the voice, Chun Li-mei's eyes slowly moved from Zhou Dongxuan, who had suddenly appeared, to Yunjian. Shock, and fear were on the verge of erupting. What scared the workers at the haunted house? What is this? When Chun Li-mei saw Zhou Dongxuan, who had suddenly appeared, and the group of people behind him, she muttered softly. Chun Li-mei had a bad feeling, because she saw the people around the coffee shop turn their eyes to Yunjian after hearing Zhou Dongxuan mention Yunjian. All of them widened their eyes and looked as if they had seen a ghost. TSK, isn't it just a small matter? Is there a need to make such a big fuss? She is Yunjian. Humph, she scared the workers at Sichuan Mental Hospital away, and now the haunted house is not open. There are also a bunch of visitors who came from afar waiting to enter the haunted house. This is all Yunjian's fault. Humph, I knew she was a troublemaker who came out to harm people. How disgusting. Zhang Qiaoyu had been unhappy with Yunjian since the beginning, and now it was even worse. He had just convinced Zhou Dongxuan not to look for Yunjian, but now? When Zhou Dongxuan got out of the haunted house just now and heard that the staff were quitting and were about to go on strike because of Yunjian, he started looking for her everywhere like a rabid dog. As a result, Zhang Qiaoyu disliked Yunjian even more. Seeing that Chun Li-mei was asking about what had happened just now, Zhang Qiaoyu was the first to stand up and say it. Her tone was strange, and she said it purely to make Chun Li-mei hate Yunjian. Chun Li-mei had just said that Yunjian was too cowardly to even go to a haunted house. Hearing Wang Qiaoyu's words, Chun Li-mei felt nothing but shock and fear. What? She actually entered a haunted house and scared the workers to the point that they went on strike? Are you joking? Isn't Sichuan Medical Hospital the scariest themed hospital in the history of the Guinness Book of Records? How could she be the one who scared the workers to the point that they went on strike? Shouldn't it be the workers disguised as ghosts who scared her to death? Chun Li-mei was already rooted to the spot, looking no different from an idiot who was in a daze. The people around the coffee shop were stunned as well, especially those who were gossiping about Yunjian just now. Wang Qiaoyu did not expect that not only did her words fail to make Yunjian hated, the people around her were instead in an uproar about her capabilities. Wang Qiaoyu was annoyed. She was about to speak when she saw a man in torn pants and a trendy golden top that looked like it could blind one's eyes coming in. The man was in his early 20s, but his hair was dyed a golden mohawk that was so bright it could blind one's eyes. Wang Qiaoyu's eyes shone when she saw the man. She quickly waved at the man and called out, "Brother!" This was her brother, the one who worked under Longmen City's top mafia group, Falcon Hall. He was also Wang Qiaoyu's pride. Chapter 1461. Wang Qiaoyu felt that even the breath coming out of her nostrils had become noble. Wang Qiaoyu raised the phone in her hand up high, and raised her hand at the man who had just entered the cafe. She shook the phone in her hand twice. "Brother, I'm here." With this shout, everyone in the coffee shop looked over. Feeling this kind of attention, Wang Qiaoyu was not shy at all. Instead, she raised her eyes and looked at the man with the golden mohawk hairstyle very proudly. The man with the golden mohawk hairstyle walked like a hooligan. Every step he took made him look like a hooligan teasing a beauty. Anyone who saw him would want to beat him up. "Sister Qiaoyu, why did you call me out?" The man with the mohawk hairstyle looked high and mighty. He glanced at Wang Qiaoyu and asked smugly. At that time, the man with the mohawk hairstyle still had his hands in his pockets, as if there was no one more powerful than him in the world. Yunjian sat where she was. When she heard Wang Qiaoyu call him brother, she recalled how Wang Qiaoyu had bragged about how her brother worked for Falcon Hall at the haunted house. She would find time to visit Falcon Hall, but she did not care much now because Su Zetian was very capable. Falcon Hall was now the #1 gang in Jia Province, and the boss of the former #1 gang in Jia Province, Han Biao, was supporting Su Zetian. Therefore, Yunjian was really a hands-off boss now. Perhaps it was because the man with the mohawk whom Wang Qiaoyu called brother was from Falcon Hall. Yunjian glanced up at him. Humph, brother, you have no idea. Someone bullied me at the haunted house just now. Wang Qiaoyu's mouth was full of nonsense. Who bullied my sister Qiaoyu? Come out now. In this day and age, people with some power had a habit of feeling superior. The man with the mohawk hairstyle looked at Wang Qiaoyu and shouted, It's her, it's her. It's her who bullied me. Brother, you have to stand up for me. Use your status to suppress her properly. It's best if you scare her to death. Wang Qiaoyu and the man with the mohawk hair kept calling each other brother and sister. Their words were undoubtedly directed at Yun Jian. She's the one who bullied you, right? Alright, Sister Qiaoyu, this brother will definitely help you get revenge for this. The last sentence was stuck in his throat just like that. When the mohawk man saw Yun Jian's exquisite and beautiful face, his entire person froze on the spot. What a beautiful girl. What a beautiful girl. The man with the mohawk's hair almost drooled. He didn't even hear Wang Qiaoyu calling him brother a few times. Zhang Zhudi. It was only when Wang Qiaoyu shouted his full name that the man with the mohawk finally reacted. The man with the mohawk hair, who was Zhang Zhudi, reacted in a daze. Brother, she bullied me. Wang Qiaoyu deliberately used a coquettish voice to speak to Zhang Zhudi, as if she wanted to draw Zhang Zhudi's attention back. However, Zhang Zhudi's eyes were already fixed on Yun Jian. When he responded to Wang Qiaoyu, his voice was very perfunctory. Oh. You're from Falcon Hall? Yun Jian's red lips curved slightly. She looked at Zhang Zhudi and asked under everyone's gaze. Yes. Zhang Zhudi was as loud as he was when he first entered the door. Now that Yun Jian asked him, he quickly responded. As he spoke, Zhang Zhudi's aura rose slightly. As long as he said that he was from Falcon Hall, Zhang Zhudi would feel a deep sense of pride. Who do you work under? What's your serial number? What's your superior's serial number? In the next second, everyone saw Yun Jian's slightly raised red arc suddenly relax. She suddenly asked this question with a cold face. Hearing this, everyone was stunned and at a loss for what to do. What did Yun Jian mean by that? However, Zhang Zhudi was the only one who suddenly came back to his senses when he heard Yun Jian's words. In front of everyone, he turned pale with fright and asked Yun Jian instead. Chapter 1462. Zhang Zhudi asked loudly. As he spoke, Zhang Zhudi's expression changed from a lustful one at the beginning to a tense one at the moment. Just like the Kosha mercenaries, Falcon Hall had started to give each member a number. Every member of the Kosha mercenaries had a number. The first was Yun Jian, who was ranked according to her strength, battle record, and contribution. Yun Jian had numbered Falcon Hall a while ago, and it was based on these aspects as well. Falcon Hall did not have a rule that forbade its members from revealing their numbers to outsiders. However, most of the members with lower numbers were unwilling to talk about it. Only those with higher numbers were willing to talk about it. In spite of it, those who were numbered closer to the front were usually mature and reliable. The candidates were usually handpicked by Yun Jian or Su Zetian because the number at the front meant that they were Falcon Hall's elders. Therefore, this created a phenomenon where those with higher numbers would not brag about it, while those with lower numbers would not be able to brag about it. Therefore, outsiders did not know that Falcon Hall had started to give out numbers. Wang Qiaoyu had wanted to scold Yun Jian when she heard Yun Jian's nonsense. However, Zhang Zhudi was really shocked after hearing Yun Jian's words. Not only did Zhang Zhudi's face turn pale, he even asked Yun Jian how she knew that the members of Falcon Hall had a number. Brother, why are you yelling at her? Falcon Hall has a number? Why haven't I heard you mention it before? Wang Qiaoyu only spoke to Zhang Zhudi after she came back to her senses. Zhang Zhu mentioned everything to her, especially bragging about it. Back then, the reason why Wang Qiaoyu recognized Zhang Zhudi as her brother was because Zhang Zhudi boasted that he could push himself up to the sky. In the end, Wang Qiaoyu really thought that Zhang Zhudi was so powerful, so she couldn't wait to call Zhang Zhudi brother. Wang Qiaoyu had heard all the bragging from Zhang Zhudi, but she had never heard of any number. That was why Wang Qiaoyu had asked. Yun Jian, Lu Fian, and Wang Cancan were still sitting in their seats. At this moment, Yun Jian was coldly looking at Zhang Zhudi. Zhang Judy was at a loss. How could there be such a thing? What serial number? I don't know. Zhang Judy realized that he had lost control of himself just now, so he tried to explain himself. Needless to say, Zhang Judy's number was definitely at the back. The image that he had erected in front of Wang Qiaoyu was that he was omnipotent. There was nothing that he couldn't do. If he reported his serial number, then his image would be **T. Actually, he was just an errand boy in Falcon Hall. Before Zhang Judy could finish, he was interrupted by Yin Jian again. She looked at Zhang Judy and said in an unfriendly tone, "Falcon Hall has assigned a number to every member. It's impossible for any of them to be missed. If you don't tell me, I'll use your name to search for the number." Yin Jian's words stunned everyone, especially Zhang Judy. After hearing Yin Jian's words, Zhang Judy was stunned. Then he burst into laughter. "You said use my name to search for the number? Are you kidding? How are you going to do that? Do you think that Falcon Hall will care about you? You want to search for my number? Haha. Who do you think you are? The boss of Falcon Hall?" Zhang Judy's laughter rang out like a silver bell. When Zhang Judy laughed, Wang Qiaoyu laughed as well. Mocking Yin Jian was Wang Qiaoyu's favorite. The mocking laughter did not seem to affect Yin Jian at all. Yin Jian picked up her phone and dialed the landline of Falcon Hall's headquarters. She reported Zhang Judy's name immediately. "Ha ha ha. She's even making a call. Yo, who's she calling? She wants to search for my brother's goddamn serial number. Hee. Wang Qiaoyu looked at Yin Jian and laughed heartily. However, before Wang Qiaoyu could finish laughing, Yin Jian suddenly reported a string of numbers. 113905. What? Are you crazy? I think that's the landline number, right? Haha. Wang Qiaoyu laughed out loud. F***ck, no, that's impossible. How do you know my serial number? You. Just when Wang Qiaoyu was about to burst into laughter, Zhang Judy's face suddenly turned pale with fright and he shouted loudly, "That's because I'm also a member of Falcon Hall." Yin Jian narrowed her eyes and said coldly in front of everyone, "Then what's your serial number?" Zhang Judy was stunned. He asked Yin Jian in return, as if to confirm Yin Jian's voice. Chapter 1463. Zhang Judy was already shocked when he heard Yin Jian say his serial number. After all, how was Yin Jian supposed to find out his serial number if he did not say it out loud? Only the higher-ups of Falcon Hall would be able to find a person's serial number by using their name to check their serial number. Zhang Judy had never considered whether Yin Jian was one of the higher-ups. That was because Yin Jian's age was simply unbelievable. In spite of it, Yin Jian had recited his serial number accurately. This was even more legendary than a mythical movie. Even so, Zhang Judy did not think that Yin Jian was one of the higher-ups. Not to mention the boss of Falcon Hall. **T. Yin Jian was the boss of Falcon Hall? This was even more unbelievable than a fish cooking itself. Therefore, when he heard that Yin Jian was also a member of Falcon Hall, Zhang Judy reflexively asked Yin Jian what her serial number was. In Falcon Hall, serial numbers represented a person's status. There were members of Falcon Hall in the entire Jia province, and there were more than 100,000 of them in total. It was a large number, but it was not particularly outstanding when compared to the entire Jia province. Zhang Judy himself was one of the bottom few. He asked Yin Jian what her serial number was because he thought that Yin Jian's ranking was definitely lower than his. How could a girl like her have a high-ranking serial number? However, when he heard Yin Jian's serial number, Zhang Judy was dumbfounded. What did you say? What serial number one? Zhang Judy thought that there was a long string of numbers behind it that he did not hear clearly, so he moved his ears closer to listen. The people around them were all confused and looked like they did not know what was going on. However, they could still understand what Yin Jian and Zhang Judy were talking about. I'll only say this once. Please get out of my sight now, because you're an eyesore. Yin Jian curled her lips coldly and said very calmly. At this point, she turned her head and ignored everyone present. She said to Lu Fian and Wang Cancan, "There are too many mosquitoes here. It's annoying. Let's go." Lu Fian and Wang Cancan didn't want to stay here any longer, so they stood up as well. The reason why Wang Kankan didn't want to stay here was entirely because she didn't want to see her senior Duan Ming and Chen Limei being intimate with each other. Hey, Wang Kankan, are you leaving just like that? Don't you want to see senior Duan Ming anymore? Senior Duan Ming went to the bathroom and will be here soon. Chen Limei saw that Wang Kankan wanted to turn around and leave just like that, so she opened her mouth to urge him to stay. Everyone knew that Chen Limei was up to no good. Even though she knew that Wang Kankan liked senior Duan Ming, Chen Limei still wanted to ask him to stay. She wanted Wang Kankan to see that senior Duan Ming was close to her, Chen Limei. Wang Kankan knew that Chen Limei had ulterior motives, but he couldn't help but stop. Yin Jian's eyes turned sharp for a moment. At this moment, a tall and handsome youth walked in from the main entrance. This kind of youth was the most popular among girls, so the moment he walked in, he received the deep gazes of the people around him. The young man was the senior Duan Ming that Chen Limei and Wang Kankan were thinking about, and at this moment, Duan Ming was walking over. When he saw Wang Kankan, Duan Ming didn't even believe his own eyes for a moment. The Wang Kankan today was completely different from when she was wearing her school uniform and pants at school. The Wang Kankan today was extremely beautiful. Duan Ming was originally walking towards Chen Limei, but he stopped halfway and turned to look at Wang Kankan. He opened his mouth and said, "You are Wang Kankan, right? I remember seeing you at school. You're dressed very beautifully today." Just as he was thinking about this, Zhang Zhudi, who was standing at the side, seemed to have suddenly thought of something incredible. He shouted at Yun Jian, and the words that came out of his mouth caused everyone present to be flabbergasted. "I remember. I'm up. San Guanzi once said that the boss of our Falcon Hall was a woman. She didn't seem to be an adult yet, and looked to be in her teens. She couldn't be you. Chapter 1464. Zhang Zhudi still remembered that one of his brothers in Falcon Hall had said that the boss of Falcon Hall was a woman, and she seemed to be underage. If that was the case, wouldn't Yun Jian, who was standing in front of him, fit the criteria? This thought gave Zhang Zhudi a fright. He quickly stopped Yun Jian and asked. In an instant, everyone present looked at her in astonishment. Falcon Hall was now the living signboard of Zhe Province. As long as one was in Zhe Province, they would know about Falcon Hall. Some people would even tremble in fear when they heard the words Falcon Hall. But what did Zhang Zhudi say? He said that Yun Jian was the boss of Falcon Hall? Brother, what kind of joke is this? She's the boss of Falcon Hall? Ha ha ha. This doesn't make sense at all. How could she be the boss of Falcon Hall? If she's the boss of Falcon Hall, then I'm a fairy who descended from the heavens. Wang Qiaoyu said shamelessly. As she spoke, her tone revealed a sense of matter-of-fact. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes when she saw this. She did not say anything. Wang Qiaoyu was talking happily. When Zhang Zhudi came back to his senses, he thought, hey, that's really the case. How could Yun Jian be the boss of Falcon Hall? Thinking of this, Zhang Zhudi said again. That's right, it can't be so coincidental. She definitely can't be the boss of Falcon Hall. I really had a stroke just now. My brain short-circuited. As he spoke, Zhang Zhudi slapped his head hard. Yun Jian glared at Zhang Zhudi. After knowing that Yun Jian was not the boss of Falcon Hall, Zhang Zhudi could not be bothered with Yun Jian anymore. When Yun Jian, Lu Fian, and Wang Kankan took a detour and left, Duan Ming suddenly grabbed Wang Kankan's hand and said to her, Wang Kankan, are you free at 6:30 tonight? Do you want to go shopping together? Duan Ming's words were like a great joy from the heavens, causing Wang Kankan's face to instantly fill with a smile. Senior, can I really go shopping with you? Wang Kankan panicked in front of Duan Ming. He was completely flustered, and had completely lost his hands and feet. Therefore, when Duan Ming invited her, Wang Kankan was completely dumbfounded. Of course, I'm honored. Duan Ming revealed a very gentle smile. This smile almost made Wang Kankan stand in place, unable to react for a long time. What are you looking at? Your senior Duan Ming has already gone far away. Lu Fian laid on Wang Cancan's body and muttered softly. Hee, I didn't notice. Wang Cancan smiled brightly. Yin Jian just smiled slightly. In the end, the three of them went to the shopping mall to pick out a gift for Qin Yiru. Wang Cancan had a good eye for choosing birthday gifts. After picking and choosing, in the end, Wang Cancan helped Yin Jian choose an exquisite apron for Qin Yiru. The reason why he gave her an apron was because Wang Cancan heard from Yin Jian that Qin Yiru was currently working in a flower shop. When working in a flower shop, Qin Yiru would usually use an apron, because wearing an apron when trimming flowers and plants would not dirty her clothes. Although the flower shop had its own apron, the apron that his daughter gave him was different from the original apron of the flower shop. Furthermore, Qin Yiru did not lack anything right now, so giving her a birthday gift was also a kind gesture. Yin Jian listened to Wang Cancan and chose an apron that was more suitable for Qin Yiru's temperament. She even found someone to wrap it up in 3 layers. This was the first time Yin Jian had bought a gift and wrapped it up in 3 layers. I owe you a favor. If you have anything in the future, you can ask me. I can help you within the scope of the conditions. Yin Jian said to Wang Cancan with one hand holding the gift. Helping her choose a birthday gift for Qin Yiru was a great kindness to Yin Jian. This was because she didn't know what to give. She had never done this before. We're friends from now on. There's no need to be like this between friends, haha. Wang Cancan was very generous as he spoke to Yin Jian. Chapter 1465. Wang Cancan was ready to go home because she was going shopping with her senior, Duan Ming, tonight. She was extremely excited. LV Fian did not return to Xinjiang town. She stayed in school during the weekends, sometimes returning home once every 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes once a month. She did not go back every week because it was inconvenient. This was similar to Yinyi back then. When Yin Jian was reborn, Yinyi was studying in Longmen City while Qin Yiru and Yin Jian were both in Xinjiang town. Yinyi often returned home once every 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes once a month. It was costly and time-consuming to take the bus home from the city. She would then stay for a day or 2 at home before taking the bus back to school from the town. It was troublesome, so students who usually stayed in the town would not be too hardworking when they returned home. After Wang Cancan left, Lu Fian also went back to school to review her homework. Lu Fian's school would be holding the monthly exam in about 10 days. As someone who had relied on her own hard work to get to where she was today, Lu Fian naturally had to review and prepare for the exam. Yin Jian was taking a taxi to Ding Ding Bar from the shopping mall with the gift she bought for Qin Yiru. Ding Ding Bar entrance. The bar was newly opened and its business was booming. It was also near the shopping mall. Others might not know that Ding Ding Bar was one of the properties under Falcon Hall. Yin Jian had an appointment with Su Zetian here. It had been a long time since she asked about Falcon Hall since she went to the military school, so she had to deal with it first when she came back today. Yin Jian stepped into Ding Ding Bar with the gift for Qin Yiru in one hand. It was still daytime, but Ding Ding Bar's recent business boom made the atmosphere inside feel like it was night. When she stepped in, it felt like she had stepped into the night from day. Just as Yin Jian stepped into the bar, she saw a few familiar figures at the bar counter from the corner of her eye. It was Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, Zhang Zhudi, and the others whom he had met at the haunted house and the coffee shop. Just now, Wang Cancan and Lu Fian had accompanied Yin Jian to buy a birthday present. They had spent some time on the way, so it was not surprising that Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the others had already come out of a place like the Dynamic Mall. It was such a coincidence to bump into them in such a place. Yin Jian was just about to sidestep the few people at the bar and take a detour, but Zhou Dongxuan's eyes lit up. He was the first to notice Yin Jian. "Why are you here?" As he spoke, Wang Qiaoyu, who was beside him, was very unhappy. "Why are you always haunting me? You'll follow us wherever we go. How shameless. As a girl, I think you don't even have the modesty of a girl." Wang Qiaoyu felt that Yin Jian had deliberately followed them, so she immediately yelled at Yin Jian. "Sis Qiaoyu, don't make a ruckus here. This is Falcon Hall's territory. You'll be arrested by them if you shout like this." Even I can't save you then. Zhang Zhudi told Wang Qiaoyu. Okay, go, I know. Wang Qiaoyu turned to Zhang Zhudi and told him obediently before turning back to whisper to Yun Jian. I say, don't tell me you're a prostitute here. Hey, you're really shameless. Wang Qiaoyu was about to say something when a middle-aged man walked over from the side. The middle-aged man was Duan Lei. When he came to Yun Jian, he called out respectfully, Sister Jian, Boss Su has been waiting for you for a long time. Go on in. Yun Jian hummed an acknowledgement and left Wang Qiaoyu, Zhang Zhudi, and the others who were eating like crazy. Zhang Zhudi obviously knew Duan Lei. Looking at him, he asked fearfully, Elder Duan Lei, could the girl who went in just now be? Could it be? Don't say things you shouldn't say. Who she is isn't something you can know. Duan Lei glanced at Zhang Zhudi and hinted. These words almost caused Zhang Zhudi to cry out in surprise. So she was. Chapter 1466. Zhang Zhudi almost cried out on the spot, but in the end, he forcefully suppressed the fear in his heart. When Yun Jian told him her ranking in Falcon Hall, Zhang Zhudi did not believe her at all. After all, Yun Jian's number was too unbelievable. She did not say 1 followed by a series of numbers but 1, just 1. Falcon Hall's ranking was arranged from the strongest to the weakest, from the beginning to the end. Since Yun Jian said 1, she could only be the boss of Falcon Hall. That was why Zhang Zhudi did not believe that Yun Jian was ranked number 1 in Falcon Hall. But who was Duan Lei? In Falcon Hall, other than the boss, only Su Zetian could be ranked below him. Then it would be Han Biao, the former leader of Zhe Province's number 1 gang. Then it would be Duan Lei. Who was Duan Lei? His words carried a lot of weight in Falcon Hall. Some time ago, when Su Zetian was seriously injured after being assassinated, Duan Lei took over Su Zetian's position and managed Falcon Hall for a long time. In Falcon Hall, Duan Lei was considered an elder. Some time ago, Yun Jian had made a huge adjustment in Falcon Hall. She changed Falcon Hall's management and ranking to that of the kosher mercenaries. Now that a month or 2 had passed, Falcon Hall was clearly in a better state than before the reorganization. Zhang Zhudi was the only one who knew the fear in his heart. When Duan Lei disappeared from Zhang Zhudi and the others' sight, Wang Qiaoyu's reckless words rang again. She first imitated Duan Lei's tone just now and mocked him. You're the one who's going to die. Don't say things you shouldn't say. You don't have the right to know who she is. Wang Qiaoyu even shook her body as she imitated Duan Lei's words. Then, she laughed out loud and mocked him. Pfft, who does he think he is? I think that woman came to this kind of place to sell herself. She's a prostitute, but she still wants to maintain her chastity. I bet that man just now is her patron. What's there to be proud of? Brother, don't you think so? As Wang Qiaoyu spoke, she turned to look at Zhang Zhudi. But just as Wang Qiaoyu said this, Zhang Zhudi roared. Right, your sister. Don't come looking for me again. Troublemaker. When Zhang Zhudi thought about how he had almost offended Yun Jian because of Wang Qiaoyu, he was so angry that he almost wanted to slap Wang Qiaoyu. Brother, how can you do this to me because of her? Wang Qiaoyu knew Zhang Zhudi, but until today, she had never seen him so angry. She wanted to stop Zhang Zhudi, who was about to walk to the door, from leaving. She even reached out her hand to stop him, but Zhang Zhudi threw her to the ground. Get lost. Don't call me brother so intimately. I'm not your biological brother, so don't try to get close to me. You've killed me. Damn it. Zhang Zhudi now even had the heart to kill Wang Qiaoyu. He turned around and roared back at her, then continued to walk forward, intending to leave. May I ask, can you tell us what happened to make you so agitated all of a sudden? I think we can talk about it slowly after we calm down. When Zhou Dongxuan saw that Yun Jian was involved in this, he was eager to know the reason. Slowly? What else do we have to talk about? What's there to talk about? Do you know who you've offended? Her. She's Falcon Hall's boss. That man just now is Falcon Hall's elder, Duan Lei. How can Elder Duan Lei's words be false? Get away from me, all of you. I don't want to see you anymore. Appalling. Zhang Zhudi ran off immediately after that, leaving Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the rest who were dumbfounded. What did Zhang Zhudi say? Yin Jian was Falcon Hall's boss? The terrifying woman who had led Falcon Hall from the top mafia group in Longmen City to the top in Jia province within half a year was her. Chapter 1467. Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the others turned pale when they heard Zhang Zhudi's words. This news was simply too frightening. Yin Jian didn't know about the frightening things that happened here. She also didn't know that Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the others already knew about her identity. Yin Jian habitually bypassed the bar and came to a VIP room. This was the place where she and Su Zetian had arranged to meet. When Yin Jian reached the door of the VIP room and reached out to open the door, a waitress with professional makeup stopped her. "Hello, little girl. This is the VIP room. Do you have a reservation?" The waitress deliberately stood there to wait for someone because she heard that a very important person was coming here today to meet the important person who was already sitting in the room. Therefore, she stood there to serve the important person who was about to arrive. Seeing Yin Jian casually open the door, the waitress thought that Yin Jian was a girl who got lost in the bar. "I made an appointment with the person inside." With that, Yin Jian held the door handle and opened it. Just as she pressed the button and was about to open the door, the waitress stopped Yin Jian's hand. She frowned and forced herself to control her temper. She said to Yin Jian, "Little girl, don't mess around. Little girl, don't mess around. The people here are all big shots. You and I can't afford to offend them. Just go play by yourself. She's the important person who's coming to our bar. You don't have to come to work tomorrow." The waitress was about to stop her when Duan Lei's voice rang out. His words determined the waitress's fate. The little girl in front of her was the important person she was supposed to serve. The waitress was frightened. She hurriedly bowed and apologized to Yin Jian. "I'm sorry. I was blind just now. Don't fire me. I was wrong. Please give me another chance." The waitress was indeed impatient just now. The slight frown on her face was enough to express everything. Yin Jian usually ignored such trivial matters. She opened the door and went in directly. It was up to Duan Lei to decide whether to fire the waitress or not. As soon as she opened the door and entered, she saw Su Zetian sitting in front of her. There were two middle-aged men sitting beside Su Zetian. Of course, Yin Jian didn't come here just to talk to Su Zetian about Falcon Hall's trivial matters. She had something official to deal with. The two middle-aged men were about the same age, but they were at least in their 40s. One of them was the boss of the number 1 gang in the neighboring province near Jia province, Heilong. The other was the number 1 gang's number 1. He had a close relationship with he was the number 1 gang boss of the neighboring province's number 1 gang. No matter who they were both in the underworlds in the underworld. Today, they had specially come from other places to visit the boss of Jia province's number 1 gang, Rakshasa, and had the intention of befriending him. Yin Jian had come here to meet both of them. They were they saw Yunzas, and was. Them saw were worse saw. As the soundproofing in the room was excellent, so no one in the room could hear what happened outside. Heilong had already stood up. He looked at Yin Jian and opened his mouth. In the end, he turned to Su Zetian with a smile. He pointed at Yin Jian and asked, "Brother Su, is this girl your daughter?" Yin Jian was too young. She was more than old enough to be Su Zetian's daughter. Su Zetian laughed when he heard that. He introduced Yin Jian to Heilong and Qi Shangjin. The words from Su Zetian's mouth shocked the two men. Chapter 1468. Heilong and Qi Shangjin's expressions changed immediately after Su Zetian introduced Yin Jian. What? The little girl standing before them who was a full size younger than them was the boss of Falcon Hall, Rakshasa, whom they were here to visit. The news was so shocking that Heilong and Qi Shangjin stood rooted to the ground, unable to react for a long while. Yin Jian was really too young. She was only in her teens, right? She was still underage, right? Was she really the Rakshasa, who had only spent half a year to turn Falcon Hall into the number 1 gang in Jia province? Aha, are you surprised? I'm sure that you'll be even more surprised later on. Su Zetian laughed loudly. His admiration for Yin Jian could no longer be described with words. Why are you looking for me? Yin Jian followed Su Zetian's words. As she spoke, she had already walked up to He Long and Qi Shangjin. Yin Jian's every move did not seem like a child's. Instead, she seemed much more mature. He Long and Qi Shangjin could not help but look directly at this teenage girl. Ahem. Let me introduce myself first. I'm He Long, the boss of Linyan Gang. He's the second in command of Vast Ocean Gang. I'm from the neighboring province, and he's from Gan Province. We're here to form an alliance with Falcon Hall. Seeing that Yun Jian was still a teenager, He Long thought that Yun Jian should be young and ignorant. He cast a wide net, thinking that Yun Jian would definitely agree to form an alliance with his gang and Qi Shangjin's gang. After all, Yun Jian was still a child. Someone like her who could lead Falcon Hall to become the #1 gang in Ja Province would definitely want to form an alliance with other gangs. After all, one more friend meant one less enemy. Everyone knew that. Moreover, since Falcon Hall had climbed to its current position, there would definitely be many people waiting for an opportunity to destroy Falcon Hall. After all, Falcon Hall had just become the #1 gang in a province. As long as Yun Jian was a smart person, she would definitely form an alliance with the #1 gangs in other provinces to strengthen her position. Therefore, He Long was 90% sure that Yun Jian would agree when he mentioned his intentions in front of Yun Jian. Moreover, she was only a teenage girl. Now that she had climbed to her current position, she would definitely want to keep it. In spite of it, He Long miscalculated. After He Long stated his purpose, Yun Jian rejected him directly. Falcon Hall won't form an alliance with any gangs in any form. Why? He Long asked as he looked at Yun Jian in shock. Yun Jian had already made her way to an empty leather sofa in the room, and plopped herself down lazily. Crossing her legs, she narrowed her eyes as a sharp glint flashed across them. Qi Shangjin had the same question as He Long. The sect that He Long and Qi Shangjin were in had the same status as Falcon Hall. They were both the top sects in their respective provinces. Logically speaking, Yun Jian should have agreed to their requests in a hurry. After all, an alliance between the #1 gangs was beneficial to both parties. Especially a girl like Yun Jian. She was so young. Shouldn't she be inexperienced? With such benefits, shouldn't she have decisively agreed to it? Just as He Long and Qi Shangjin were puzzled, Yun Jian's next words overturned their understanding and shocked them like never before. I only accept gangs that want to join Falcon Hall. Yun Jian paused at this point, then continued arrogantly. Of course, you can choose not to join me, but I believe that I will forcefully take all of your gangs under my banner in the near future. Arrogant. Arrogant. That was the first impression that Yun Jian gave to He Long and Qi Shangjin. Chapter 1469. Yun Jian's words were more than arrogant. More than arrogant. She was as arrogant as the heavens. Everyone present was stunned by her arrogant words and aura. Even Su Zetian was shaken. Back then, Yun Jian had taken away Su Zetian's Dragon Head Gang and renamed it Falcon Hall. A long time ago, Su Zetian had invited Yun Jian to join Dragon Head Gang, but Yun Jian wanted the entire gang. The scene just now overlapped with the one from a long time ago. What did not change was that Yun Jian was still as arrogant as ever. However, she had the right to be so. Dragon Head Gang was the worst gang in Ja Province back then, but under Yun Jian's leadership, it had developed into the top gang in Ja Province today. Back then, Su Zetian and his brothers had built Dragon Head Gang from scratch. More than anyone else, Su Zetian hoped that Dragon Head Gang, now known as Falcon Hall, would rise higher and go further than anyone else. In spite of it, becoming the top gang in Longmen City was already the limit in Su Zetian's hands. In retrospect, Su Zetian even felt fortunate that he had passed the gang to Yun Jian back then. Otherwise, there was no doubt that it would have been difficult for Dragon Head Gang to maintain its position as Longmen City's top gang, let alone become the top gang in Ja Province. Su Zetian had experienced it firsthand, hence, he chose to believe in Yun Jian. However, He Long and Qi Shangjin were different. Both of them had come here with the intention of forming an alliance. What about Yunjian? She said no to forming an alliance. That aside, she even wanted to annex all the gangs? That was a fool's dream. Hence, Heilong's expression darkened as he warned Yunjian in a dark tone. Young man, I recognize you as Falcon Hall's boss. You've led Falcon Hall to become the top gang in Zhe province. It wasn't easy and you're quite capable. However, you're still young. You're not as experienced or farsighted as we are. Don't expect too much at such a young age. Falcon Hall is powerful, but it's not powerful enough to annex all of us. You're so young yet you speak so arrogantly. You must know that there's always someone better out there. One must know when to advance and when to retreat. Don't think too highly of yourself. I'd like to see if we're still no match for a mere Falcon Hall if all of us work together. Heilong's expression immediately darkened. Yunjian had said that one day, she would forcefully take all the gangs under her banner. Heilong knew that the alliance was definitely not going to work out. Furthermore, Yunjian had said that she would forcefully take all the gangs under her banner. Wasn't the Lin Yun Association and the Vast Ocean Association among all the gangs? Since Yunjian had said so, Heilong naturally didn't need to be courteous. Shangjin, let's go. After Heilong lectured Yunjian, he angrily turned around and was about to leave with Qi Shangjin. Heilong and Qi Shangjin had originally come to discuss an alliance with Yunjian. Who knew that Yunjian would be so insensible and even say such arrogant words? Just as Heilong and Qi Shangjin reached the door of the private room and were about to reach out to open the door, Yunjian's faint voice came from behind them. How dare you act so impudently in my territory? Did I allow you to leave? As she spoke, Heilong and Qi Shangjin felt a strong murderous intent coming from behind them. The two of them turned around at the same time and saw two curved knives flying toward them. The knives were thrown far away by the person who threw them, but they were sharp enough to make Heilong and Qi Shangjin's expressions change. The two of them dodged to the side, barely avoiding the fatal blow from the small knife. However, because their reaction speed was not fast enough, Heilong and Qi Shangjin's single-handed arms were ruthlessly cut by the knife, causing them to bleed. When the two of them reacted, their eyes widened as they looked at Yunjian, who was still sitting on the sofa. Just throwing two knives was enough to injure the two of them. They wouldn't even be able to dodge them. What kind of speed was that? For a moment, Heilong and Qi Shangjin's expressions changed drastically. If their senses weren't wrong, Yunjian hadn't used her full strength. If Yunjian used her full strength, the two of them might not even be able to survive one of her knives. Chapter 1470. Heilong and Qi Shangjin went crazy again, but they left with their tails between their legs. In the end, Yunjian didn't make things difficult for Heilong and Qi Shangjin. After all, Heilong represented the number one gang in the neighboring province, while Qi Shangjin represented the number one gang in the entire Gan province. The gangs behind them were on the same level as Falcon Hall, so their status couldn't be underestimated. If Yunjian really killed the two of them, it wouldn't benefit her at all. She wouldn't do something that wouldn't benefit her at all. Seeing the two of them leave the VIP room, Yunjian narrowed her eyes. She stood on the spot and said to Su Zetian, "Send someone to monitor their every move. Send someone to keep an eye on their every move. In at most a year, I want them to be destroyed." In at most a year, she would lead Falcon Hall to take over all the gangs in Country Z. Su Zetian was in high spirits after hearing Yunjian's words. He liked Yunjian's ambition. Yes, Su Zetian nodded. After walking out of Hotel Ding Ding, Yunjian went home with the birthday present she bought for Qin Yiru. She first returned to the huge villa that she lived in with Ce. Just as she opened the door, a familiar male scent wafted over. The next second, she was hugged by this familiar male scent. Yunjian wasn't surprised to be hugged by this familiar male scent. She leaned forward and asked, "I thought you couldn't come back?" "It's mother-in-law's birthday, so of course I have to come back." Ce was very tall, so Yunjian's head could barely reach Ce's chin. At this moment, Ce reached out and patted Yunjian's head. "Young master, can we go downstairs now?" Just as Ce finished speaking, Shui Ying's shout came from upstairs. Ce resisted the urge to slap Shui Ying to death. He reluctantly let go of Yun Jian's body, then shouted from upstairs, "Get down!" Shui Ying walked down innocently with Si Luo following behind him. Si Luo was carefully following behind Shui Ying as they walked down from the second floor. Shui Ying even reached out to stroke Si Luo's shoulder as they walked past the stairs. Si Luo looked up at Shui Ying fearfully. She was afraid that if she didn't follow his instructions, she would be called a dumb girl. Hence, Si Luo hesitated for a long time before reaching out and grabbing Shui Ying's outstretched hand. Then he was carefully led downstairs. "Idiot, hurry up!" Shui Ying shouted again when he saw that Si Luo was hesitating to give him his hand. 5:30 p.m. was Qin Yiru's time to get off work. She was busy at home. Gu Junjian was personally cooking. He was wearing an apron and was still cooking in the kitchen. Everything was set up. Yun Yi, Qin Yu, Shui Ying, Si Luo, Xiao Yunju, Duan Li, Duanya, and Mo Senator. Almost everyone who was supposed to be there was there. The doorbell rang at 5:45 p.m. Usually, Qin Yiru would have gotten off work at this time. So Yun Jian ran to open the door in her slippers. However, when the door opened, the person she saw was not Qin Yiru but Lu Lanhua. This woman was her nominal grandmother, Yun Gang's birth mother. Yun Jian froze. She did not expect Lu Lanhua to be here. She remembered how Lu Lanhua had treated Qin Yiru and how shameless she was back then. Just as Yun Jian was about to chase her away, Lu Lanhua suddenly knelt down in front of Yun Jian and shouted with all her might. Chapter 1471. Last time, Yun Gang went to gamble again and couldn't pay back the money he owed. At that time, Yun Jian saved Yun Zheng's family who was innocently implicated. As for Yun Gang's life and death, she didn't care. Yun Jian said a long time ago that after she helped Yun Gang pay back the 5,000 yuan he lost in gambling, his life and death would have nothing to do with her. First of all, Yun Jian wasn't Yun Gang's biological daughter. Yun Gang also didn't fulfill his duty as a father to her. She didn't need to raise Yun Gang as her loving father. Taking a step back, Yun Gang directly abandoned his family and ran away after he lost money in gambling. Later on, he even let his mistress appear and humiliate Qin Yiru. Also, Lu Lanhua told Qin Yiru that it was okay for a man to cheat a little, which left a deep impression on Yun Jian. The moment she opened the door, Lu Lanhua knelt down in front of her. She even knelt on the ground, casually kneeling in front of Gu Yunjian's door. This was a villa area, but even so, there were neighbors nearby who could see the scene of Lu Lanhua kneeling in front of Yun Jian. Let's not talk about why Lu Lanhua was looking for Yun Jian. Just based on the fact that Lu Lanhua chose to kneel in front of Yun Jian at this time and place, she most likely thought that Yun Jian would be too embarrassed to help her into the house, so she knelt down heavily. If it was someone else, perhaps for the sake of face, or perhaps because they felt that Lu Lanhua looked pitiful, they would really quickly help Lu Lanhua up. But Yun Jian wouldn't. Last time Gang Er's legs were crippled. Now, even walking is a problem. Last time, that group of people refused to let Gang Er go. They even said they wanted to kill him. You're Gang Er's biological daughter. How can a biological daughter not care about her father's matters? Save him. Save him. As Lu Lanhua spoke, she tried to use her hands to hold Yun Jian's legs, waiting for Yun Jian to help her up from the ground. This damned girl. Hurry up and help her up. How long would she have to kneel? Lu Lanhua actually wanted to win Yun Jian's sympathy, so that she could sit down in the room first. After he sat down, he began to talk about his hardships during this period of time. Then he would ask Gu Junjian or Qin Yiru to take him in. But who would have thought that Yun Jian, that wretched girl, would make her kneel at the door and refuse to let her get up? I've already said that he has nothing to do with me. You don't have to beg me here. Even if you kneel until tomorrow, I won't pity you and let you in. Also, if you continue to pester me endlessly, there's no need for those people to cripple him. I'll go and kill him right now. Yun Jian said it word by word. Today was Qin Yiru's birthday, and Lu Lanhua was using this opportunity to gain sympathy. Yun Jian could not stand it anymore. Fortunately, Qin Yiru had not returned home yet. Otherwise, Qin Yiru would be sad every time she saw the past. After all, no one wanted to recall the unpleasant past. You're trying to kill your father. Oh my God. How can there be such a vicious daughter like you in this world? Lu Lanhua was terrified by what Yun Jian said. After all, she had gotten used to insulting Qin Yiru and Qin Yiru before they got married, so she could not change her habit now. Thus, it did not take long for Lu Lanhua to revert to her original form. Yun Jian frowned slightly. In the next second, she grabbed Lu Lanhua's collar and dragged her toward the villa's door amidst Lu Lanhua's cries and screams. Hey you! What are you doing? Yun Jian, Xiaojian, you can't do this to your grandma. I'm your real grandma. I've been good to you before, haven't I? Ah. The last scream was when Yun Jian threw Lu Lanhua out of the villa's door. The surrounding neighbors loved to watch a good show. At this time, when they saw that there was such a lively scene, they all gathered around. They saw Yun Jian holding something in her hand and flinging it out of the villa. Then Yun Jian told Lu Lanhua in front of everyone, not afraid of airing her dirty linen in public. Chapter 1472. Yun Jian's words made the neighbors who were watching the show blink. Just as Yun Jian finished speaking, Lu Lanhua simply sat down on the ground and shouted without any hesitation. Heavens! Is there still any justice in this? She even wants to hit her own grandmother. This is too much. Too much. Everyone, come and judge this. As she spoke, Lu Lanhua beat her own feet and shouted like a homeless person. The only difference was that as she beat her own legs, she added fuel to the fire as she told the story. However, she deliberately omitted the vicious way she had treated Yun Jian and Qin Yiru in the past. Her own father's legs are now crippled, but the two of them are great. One remarried to a soldier and is now enjoying life. The other punched and kicked her own grandmother. Is there still any justice in this? Where are the police? Where did the police go? Quickly call the police over to judge this. All of you are here to bully an old woman like me. Bullying an old woman like me who can't walk properly. Where is the justice in this? Lu Lanhua saw that more and more neighbors were gathering around Qin Yiru's house, and her shouts became louder and louder. Those who didn't know would really think that after Yun Gang's legs were crippled. Qin Yiru saw that Yun Gang was crippled, then turned around and married Ge Junjian. Yun Jian, on the other hand, stopped her grandmother from entering the house. Before Yun Jian could explain, Lu Lanhua's words had already caused the surrounding crowd to point and gossip. TSK, I didn't expect Officer Ji's current wife to be such a woman. I was wondering why Officer Ge suddenly got married after divorcing his ex-wife for so many years. This new wife even has a family to feed. I heard that he married her from a poor village. TSK, I reckon that Officer Ge got married to her because he was set up, right? I think she is an indecent woman herself. She even abandoned her husband who can't walk properly. I think this kind of woman should be drowned in a pig cage. That's right. I didn't expect Qin Yiru to be that kind of person. In the past, when he met us, he was still fine. Who would have thought that in the end? We really don't know his true nature. Whether it was in the countryside or the city, there was no lack of gossipy women. Whenever something happened to a family, these gossipy women would immediately pop out to gossip. These days, whether it was in the countryside or in the countryside, women who abandoned their original husbands and ran away with other men were especially ostracized. What Lu Lanhua said was simply a complete reversal of right and wrong. Lu Lanhua thought that Yun Jian and Qin Yiru wanted to get rid of her and Yun Gang. There was no way. How could his granddaughter really ditch him just because she had become rich and started a company? They are related by blood. Moreover, Yun Jian's legs were broken not long ago. Now he couldn't even afford to go to the hospital to see a doctor. Lu Lanhua was thinking that Yun Jian wouldn't pay. Then she would make a fuss. Great. She ruined Yun Jian's and Qin Yiru's good reputation. In this era, people paid attention to reputation. Lu Lanhua cried and threw a tantrum, slapping her thighs and sitting on the ground like a beggar. This made the people around her believe her. No one noticed that Yun Jian's face was getting darker and darker. Ce didn't follow her out, because he knew that she could handle this kind of simple matter by herself. Gu Junjian was cooking in the kitchen, so he didn't know what was going on. The only person standing beside Yunjian was Yun Yi. Because of this matter, only Yunjian and Yun Yi could stand up and say something. At this moment, when Lu Lanhua saw that everyone was helping her, she became even more excited. Yunjian wasn't in a hurry to speak. She simply crossed her arms and watched. It was only when Lu Lanhua was done crying about all the hardships that never happened that Yunjian's cold voice rang. "Are you done?" This simple sentence made Lu Lanhua shiver. However, when Lu Lanhua saw that there were so many people around, she felt that Yunjian wouldn't dare to do anything to her. Hence Lu Lanhua said, "How can I be done? Your mother is a B***tch who abandoned her husband. Lu Lanhua was doing this because she thought that Yunjian was rich now. If she made a scene, Yunjian would feel that it was bad for her reputation. Hence, she would probably give her some money to stop her from talking. However, before Lu Lanhua could finish speaking, Yunjian took a step forward in front of everyone. She slapped Lu Lanhua hard on the face. This slap made Lu Lanhua fall to the ground and spit out her fake teeth. The force was so strong that Lu Lanhua's face was almost deformed. Chapter 1473. Everyone was shocked. No one expected Yunjian to hit Lu Lanhua. After all, a granddaughter hitting her grandmother would be scolded for being unfilial. In the words of the villagers, such a fierce daughter would never be able to get married in the future. One of the older aunties saw Yunjian slap Lu Lanhua to the ground. She immediately scolded Yunjian and ran over to help Lu Lanhua up. "Ayo, what kind of granddaughter is this?" Not only did she chase her grandmother out of the house in front of everyone, she even slapped her own grandmother. "Look, Ayo, her fake teeth are falling out," the auntie said as she helped Lu Lanhua up. The auntie thought that Lu Lanhua was telling the truth, so she scolded Yunjian as she spoke. Coupled with Lu Lanhua's words, everyone felt that Yunjian was the one in the wrong. "Grandma, I'm calling you Grandma again today, because you really treated me well in the past." "Yes, you did treat me well. But ask yourself honestly, have you ever been good to my mother and sister?" Just as Lu Lanhua was twisting the truth and talking about her own public opinion, Yuni really couldn't stand it anymore, so he spoke up. The moment Yuni spoke up, the gossipy women who were speaking up for Lu Lanhua all stopped talking and looked at Yuni. However, Yuni continued to speak. "When my mother divorced my father's legs weren't crippled yet, right? The 2 houses in our hometown were built with the money that my mother worked hard to earn for more than 10 years. During the divorce, my mother didn't take a single cent and left with my sister and me. My father gambled for more than 10 years. Whenever he came home, he would steal the money that my mother worked hard to accumulate and return to the casino. When did he ever care about us? When did he ever care about my mother? When school started last year, my father gambled again. He lost the bet and even gave the loan sharks a loan. The loan sharks came to my house and even had designs on my sister. Where were you at this time? Where was my father? My mother was able to accept all of that, but what did my father do with the money he won from gambling? Not only did he mix around with a mistress, but he also brought all the money from the family to the mistress's house. My mother has never done anything wrong to my father. Dad brought all of this upon himself. He made a bet himself, so he deserves to have his legs crippled." Yuni clenched her fists and roared the last sentence with a complicated expression. Yuni didn't want to say anything bad about Yun Gang. After all, he was his biological father. However, under such circumstances, Yuni really couldn't hold it in anymore. Today was Qin Yiru's birthday, and LV Lanhua had chosen such a day to cause trouble. If she wasn't doing this on purpose, then what was? Hearing Yun Yi's words, the group of gossipy women instantly stopped talking. It was only then that Yun Yi turned his gaze to Lu Lanhua and growled at her in exasperation. He said angrily to Lu Lanhua, "If it were me who slapped my sister just now, I would have stabbed you to death instead of just giving you a simple slap. My mother has worked hard for the Yun family all her life. But what did she get in return? How did the Yun family treat my mother and my sister in the past? Now that something has happened, you want to cause trouble because our family is rich, right? Let me tell you, I'll take care of my mother and my sister now. You want to cause trouble? No way. Yin Yi's knuckles cracked when he said this. That was the kind of anger that only people who had experienced it could show. The surrounding people were dumbfounded, especially the gossipy woman who had just said that Yun Jian wasn't a good person. Even Lu Lanhua was speechless. No one had expected that Yun Yi, who had always been obedient and polite to everyone and had excellent grades, would say such things in order to protect Qin Yiru and Yun Jian. Chapter 1474. Although Yun Yi's words sounded a little extreme, the people around him could tell what he was implying. Lu Lanhua was completely a vicious mother-in-law. In the past, she abused her daughter-in-law Qin Yiru. Now that Qin Yiru had married well and her daughter and son were successful, she shamelessly came to ask for money? She was simply a shameless old woman. The gossipy women present were generally women who had experienced fierce battles with their mothers-in-law. Generally, the relationship between mothers-in-law and daughter-in-law was not good, unless the mother-in-law was a very cultured woman who would not be calculative. Therefore, the gossipy women especially hated unreasonable mothers-in-law. And just as Lu Lanhua's image as a vicious mother-in-law was established, the surrounding people who were watching the show began to point at Lu Lanhua. Those gossipy women simply rushed into the house, took all kinds of vegetables and eggs, and threw them at Lu Lanhua. The auntie who reached out to help Lu Lanhua had already helped Lu Lanhua up. Now that she heard Yin Yi's words, she directly let go of her hand that was supporting Lu Lanhua. That was not all. The auntie directly pushed Lu Lanhua to the ground again, and then cursed at Lu Lanhua. Great. So the slut is you, old woman. I was wondering, Qin Yiru is usually modest and amiable. How could she become like what you said? Damned old woman, get lost. Get out of here. Your skin is really thick. You actually have the nerve to come here and ask Qin Yiru for money. Get lost. Damned old woman. Get out of our villa district. People like you don't deserve to come here. Similar curses like this were endless. What was more frightening was that these gossipy women even ran home to take all kinds of vegetables and eggs, and ran out to throw them at Lu Lanhua. Great, all of you. Just you wait. All of you are trash. Scum of society. You even want to hit an old woman. See if I don't go to the police station and sue you to death. Lu Lanhua crawled up from the ground in a disheveled manner, brushing away the eggs and vegetables that were thrown at her face as she cursed back at Yun Jian, Yun Yi, and the other gossipy women who were throwing rotten eggs at her. Lu Lanhua was never the kind of old woman who would bow down. She was famous in Xinjiang town for her shrewdness. Of course, Lu Lanhua would not go to the police station to sue them. She was only doing this to find a chance for herself to slip away. As he walked, he continued to run. His face was filled with extreme hatred. It was the appearance of someone who refused to change despite repeated admonitions. Once Lu Lanhua was far away, the people around her, including the gossipy women who had insulted Qin Yiru, came over to apologize to Yun Jian and left. Not long after they left, they were back, came back from the entrance, came back when they saw Qinzi's. Xiao Jian, Xiao Yi, what's going on here? Qin Yiru asked curiously when she saw the vegetables scattered on the floor, and the egg with its yolk cracked open. A rat tried to steal something but everyone smashed it to death. Mom, let's go home. Yun Jian pulled Qin Yiru's hand and headed home. Yun Jian only gave a brief explanation about the battlefield just now. Qin Yiru had long forgotten that it was her birthday today. She nodded and followed Yun Jian home. The moment she stepped through the door, Qin Yiru saw a variety of dishes on the dining table at home. The variety of dishes was enough to hold a wedding banquet. Qin Yiru was dumbfounded when she saw it. She turned to ask Yun Jian, Xiao Jian, what's the program today? Mom, it's your birthday today. Yun Jian curled her lips into a smile and nodded. So happy birthday, Mom. Qin Yiru was flabbergasted when she heard that. Good Yun Jian had already taken the last big cake out from the kitchen and told Qin Yiru, Honey, happy birthday. This is the first birthday I'm celebrating for you. I'll celebrate your birthday with you every year from now on. When Qin Yiru heard Yunjian and Gu Yunjian's words, she realized at once that her daughter and husband had given her the cold shoulder in the morning to give her such a big surprise. Chapter 1475. Qin Yiru's mother. Happy birthday. Just as Qin Yiru's eyes were turning red, Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya each grabbed a balloon with the words Happy Birthday on it and rushed down the stairs in an orderly manner. With Xiao Yunju taking the lead, the three of them handed the balloons with the handwritten words to Qin Yiru. The words on the balloons were, Happy Birthday. Qin Yiru's mother. The presents are in the balloons, hee. I was the one who came up with the idea of giving presents. Xiao Yunju took the lead and shook his head. He, Duanli, and Duanya each put their presents in the balloons and handed them to Qin Yiru. Xiao Yunju and the other two had been cooped up in the room since morning, and refused to come downstairs for lunch. Qin Yiru had thought it was strange. The three children were usually very obedient, but today they were especially disobedient and refused to come down for lunch. It turned out that Xiao Yunju and the other two had started preparing presents early in the morning, and wanted to give her a big surprise now. Thank you, my babies. Qin Yiru was so touched that she almost cried. She bent down and kissed Xiao Yunju and the other two's foreheads, and held the presents tightly in her hands. Mom, this is mine. Yunjian also wrapped her present in 3 layers and handed it to Qin Yiru. Yunjian had never chosen a present for herself, and wrapped it so meticulously before giving it to someone. Of course, this was excluding the clothes that she had bought for Ce. Yunjian glanced at Ce, who was coming down from the second floor. The clothes he was wearing were almost colorless and were about to fall off. She had bought these clothes for him. Ever since he had put them on, he had been alternating between the clothes she had bought for him, and had not worn any other clothes. Yunjian was looking at the clothes Ce was wearing, and did not look at Ce himself. Ce turned his head and looked over. When he saw Yunjian looking at him, he smiled sinisterly and walked over as well. Even if the clothes were worn to the point of fading, Ce's handsomeness was on full display when he wore them. Ce walked over and grabbed Yunjian's little hand, then walked over to the dining table. After everyone had taken their seats, dinner began as promised. Gu Yunjian's cooking was naturally delicious. Although Gu Junjian was a soldier, he was good at something. Cooking was one of his specialties. Gu Yunjian's cooking was very delicious. There were fish, prawns, crabs, and crabs for dinner. After the bowls and chopsticks were cleared, the whole family sat in the living room and watched TV. Yunjian had just gone out with Qin Yiru to buy some snacks. She had just sat down on the empty sofa when she saw Ce sitting across from her. In the past, Ce would have sat down with Yunjian when he saw her sitting across from him. However, he did not today. Just as she was thinking about this, Xiao Yunju suddenly ran over and stuffed a small piece of paper into Yunjian's hand. He said to Yunjian, "Sister, this is from Ce." With that, Xiao Yunju ran over to Ce and exchanged 3 lollipops. Then he ate them with relish. Yunjian felt like she had been sold. Pressing her lips together, she stopped thinking about it, and opened the piece of paper that Ce had asked Xiao Yunju to pass to her. "Xiaojian, what are you guys passing around so mysteriously? Let Mom see it too," Qin Yiru asked with a smile when she saw the piece of paper in Yunjian's hand. "Mom, it's nothing," Yunjian said as she opened the piece of paper. When she saw Ce's flamboyant handwriting on the paper, however, Yunjian's cheeks flushed as red as a chicken's butt. There was only one sentence written on it. Chapter 1476. Looking at the line, especially when Qin Yiru asked Yunjian to show her Ce's note just now, Yunjian was stunned. Yunjian's cheeks flushed uncontrollably. "Mom, I'm going to the washroom." Yunjian hurriedly slipped away. A note. Qin Yiru really wanted to see what Ce wrote for her daughter. However, Yunjian didn't give her the chance. She hurriedly walked to the washroom on the second floor. She returned to her room to use the washroom. Gu Yunjian's house was a villa. Every bedroom here had its own washroom. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that something was wrong when Yun Jian returned to her room to use the washroom. After all, there was a washroom on the first floor. Just as Yun Jian finished speaking, Ce, who was sitting on the sofa, stood up and walked towards Yun Jian. He even found a brazen excuse for himself. I'm going to change my clothes. If Shuang wasn't afraid of being thrown into the Amazon forest by Ce, he would have stood up and ridiculed him. Young master, you just changed into the clothes that young mistress bought for you. Now you're going to change your clothes again? T. Change into a sweater. To hell with it. Changing clothes was a lie. Running to find young mistress was the real reason. In fact, everyone there had seen it, and knew that Ce was spouting nonsense. However, no one exposed him. Yun Jian ran upstairs with the paper written by Ce that made her blush. Just as she was about to close the door to her room, a slender hand pressed against the door. She looked up and saw Ce's face that was so handsome it was unreal. Don't come in. I need to use the washroom. Yun Jian didn't want to see Ce at this moment. Hence, she found an excuse to avoid him. She didn't need to use the washroom at all. She just didn't want to see him in such an awkward situation. Then I'll wait for you in the room. Ce didn't wait for Yun Jian to reply. He slipped into the room and closed the door behind him. Ce knew that Yun Jian didn't want to use the washroom at all. Hence, when Yun Jian turned around, Ce hugged her from behind. In a few moves, he pressed Yun Jian's chest down and her butt onto the bed. Yun Jian was caught off guard. By the time she reacted, a certain part of Ce's body was already pressed against her butt. Get up. I need to use the washroom. Yun Jian struggled, but Ce didn't let go. The naughty hand hugged her waist from her back and slowly moved upwards. In the end, it circled around 2 plump areas. Xiaojian, don't move. I'll just hug you. Ce bent down and whispered into Yun Jian's ear. It wasn't the first time he had hugged her anyway. However, Yun Jian clearly felt her bra being pushed up by a hand that grabbed her breasts at close range and squeezed gently. Let go. If you don't, I'll. Yun Jian turned to push Ce away. 3 sneaky voices came from the corridor outside the door. Gich must be having an affair with Jiejia. We have to catch them. The teacher said that they'll be sent to the police station if they're caught having an affair. Xiao Yunju's confident voice rang out. Then we mustn't let them escape. Duan Li's voice rang out. Hearing Xiao Yunju and the other 2's footsteps, Yun Jian dared not even breathe loudly, but she still pushed Ce, trying to get Ce to stand up. As she pushed, however, Yun Jian's hand was placed very low because she couldn't lift it. As she pushed, her hand suddenly slid over a certain part of Ce's swollen part. The part that was pressed against her but actually grew thicker. Chapter 1477. The worst part was that Xiao Yunju and the other 2 were already standing outside Yun Jian's bedroom. Yun Jian couldn't even make a sound. If she were to say anything now, Xiao Yunju and the other 2 would hear her. Ce's breath instantly became heavy. He was a righteous young man who had never had sex before. He had never even touched a woman's hand before. This time, the woman he loved was lying in front of him. If he could resist, he might as well change his name to woman. He reached out and hugged Yun Jian. At this moment, Xiao Yunju, who was standing at the bedroom door, spoke again. I'm sure that big brother Ce is in big sister's room. Should we rush in now to catch them in the act or wait for them to come out? I see that the police always rush in to arrest people. Should we rush in too? Duan Li suggested. That's impolite. Our teacher said that we can't be so impolite. At this moment, Duanya spoke in a serious tone as if she was reading a book. Her words were especially loud. Xiao Yunju and Duan Li spoke softly. They knew that they had to speak softly because big sister and big brother Ce would hear them. However, Duanya was still young, so she spoke loudly. The moment Duanya spoke, Duan Li hurriedly covered Duanya's mouth and whispered, Shoo, shoo. Don't speak so loudly. Big sister and big brother Ce can hear you in the room. In fact, Yun Jian and Ce had heard them a long time ago. Even though Xiao Yunju and the other 2 spoke softly, Yun Jian and Ce could still hear them. Yunjian's expression darkened when she heard Yunju and the other boys talking about her, and Ce as if they were really having an affair behind everyone's back. Xiao Yunju and the other two waited outside the door for more than 10 minutes. Ce and Yunjian maintained the same posture for more than 10 minutes. Ce, who was burning with lust from Yunjian's teasing just now, calmed down. If it weren't for Xiao Yunju and the other two guarding the door, Ce wouldn't have cared that Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian were still awake when Yunjian accidentally touched his manhood. He probably wouldn't have been able to hold himself back, and would have ked Yunjian. The piece of paper that he had stuffed into Yunjian's mouth earlier was the best proof of his desire. At this moment, Qin Yiru's voice came from the bedroom door. Xiaozhu, why are the three of you standing here? I've already bought the snacks for you. Hurry up and go downstairs to eat. Haha, Mother Qin, we got it. Xiao Yunju and the other two acted as if they had been caught doing something naughty. The three of them quickly ran downstairs, fighting to be the first to go downstairs. Children were like this, innocent and naive. More than 10 minutes later, Yunjian and Ce had also tidied up their clothes. Yunjian even went back and forth to tidy herself up, afraid that something would be discovered when she went downstairs. When Yunjian went downstairs, Shuang even forcefully pulled Si Luo's hand. Si Luo retracted her hand in fear, but Shuang simply grabbed her hand and stopped her from moving. She didn't know how much Shuang had treated Si Luo during this period of time, but Si Luo didn't dare to resist at all. She pouted and sat where she was, withdrawing her hand. In the end, she had no choice but to let Shuang hold her tightly. When he saw Yunjian and Ce coming downstairs, Shuang subconsciously asked, why did you guys take half an hour to change in the bathroom? Just as Shuang asked this question, he instantly realized that he had asked the wrong question. He looked up and saw Ce holding Yunjian's hand with a gloomy expression. Before Ce could say anything, Shuang tried to say something else to ease the awkward atmosphere. The weather is really good today, haha. It was already dark outside. Shuang only realized that it was already dark after he said that. Then Shuang could only laugh awkwardly and add, the weather is good today, ahem. Just as he finished speaking, Yunjian's phone rang. Yunjian took out her phone from her pocket and glanced at it. It was a landline number. Yunjian didn't know many people and didn't have a phone with her. There was only one person who could call her using a landline number, and that person was Lu Fian. Yunjian frowned slightly and immediately answered the call. Lu Fian's voice sounded from the other end of the line. Chapter 1478. Wang Cancan was in trouble. After all, she was her friend and had nothing to do with Yunjian. LV Fian didn't want to trouble Yunjian, but she had no choice. She usually stayed at school on weekends and had no friends or relatives. Moreover, it was late at night. There were 6 or 7 students in her class who didn't go home on weekends and stayed at school. LV Fian had already asked them for help one by one, but no one was willing to help her. She had no choice but to use the school's landline to call Yunjian. Today's matter was very important because if they couldn't save Wang Cancan, then Wang Cancan's life would be ruined. LV Fian knew Yunjian's ability and knew that Yunjian had the ability to protect herself. Therefore, LV Fian called Yunjian today to ask for Yunjian's help. When Yunjian heard that Wang Cancan was in trouble, she immediately thought of Wang Cancan's friendly face. When Yunjian was with LV Fian and Wang Cancan didn't completely ignore Yunjian, just because she and LV Fian knew each other. Usually, when the three of them were together, Yunjian was always the one who was the most embarrassed and easily ignored. However, Wang Cancan didn't ignore her. Of course, the most important thing was that Wang Cancan chose a gift for Qin Yiru for Yunjian. Qin Yiru liked it very much. She just put on the apron that Yunjian gave her, and said that she must wear it to work tomorrow. Yunjian had never chosen such a birthday gift for anyone. It was all because of Wang Cancan that Qin Yiru liked her gift. Wang Cancan was very careful when choosing the gift. In order to choose a gift that could make Qin Yiru happy, Wang Cancan even asked Qin Yiru about her hobbies, work and so on. In the end, after careful selection and careful analysis, she came to a conclusion, and finally chose to buy an apron. Because Qin Yiru could use it at work, and it was very practical. Therefore, Yin Jian had told Wang Cancan that she owed her a favor. As long as it was within the scope of the conditions, Yin Jian would help her. It was time to return Wang Cancan's favor. Yin Jian wanted to go too. Wait for me at school. I'll be right there. Lu Fian nodded while sobbing. She sounded like she was scared out of her wits. After hanging up, Yin Jian turned to look at Ce. Then she looked at Qin Yiru and said, I'm going out for a while. After that, Yin Jian turned around and walked out. I'll go with you. Ce wanted to follow her. At this moment, Yin Jian had already walked quickly to the main entrance. Ce followed behind Yin Jian. The two of them stood at the main entrance where Qin Yiru and the others couldn't see. I'm going with my classmates. It's urgent. Wait for me at home. Yin Jian said to Ce. I'll go with you. Ce repeated himself like a child. Yin Jian suddenly stood on her tiptoes and moved closer to Ce. She tiptoed and moved closer to Ce. Then she planted a kiss on Ce's lips. This kiss was very short, but after Yin Jian's kiss, Ce didn't insist. Give me the keys. I'll be back soon. Yin Jian's Ferrari had been repaired, but it hadn't been returned from the repair shop. She could only reach out and borrow the car from Ce. Come back and let me touch it again. I'll give it to you. Ce held the car keys in his hand and made a shameless request to Yin Jian. Yin Jian's lips twitched. Because of the urgency of the matter, she agreed to Ce's shameless request shyly. And give it to me. Yin Jian's words made Ce's imagination run wild. Chapter 1479. When Yin Jian drove to Lu Fian's school gate, she saw that the girl was already waiting for her not too far away. Lu Fian's small and delicate face was scrunched up tightly. Lu Fian was still the same as before. If something happened to her friend, she would not sit idly by. When she had just been reborn, the first person Yin Jian met who helped her in Xinjiang town's toilet was Lu Fian. Lin Mingyu, who went against Yin Jian back then, was the daughter of Xinjiang town's principal, but Lu Fian was not afraid of offending Lin Mingyu. Even if she would be implicated, Lu Fian helped her. Yin Jian liked Lu Fian's personality as her friend. Get in. Yin Jian said to roll down the window. Lu Fian did not think much about how Yin Jian knew how to drive a car, because she was worried about Wang Cancan. She told Yin Jian once she got in. Xiao Jian, something happened to Cancan. She called me half an hour ago when she was in the toilet, and said that Senior Duanming wanted to take her to a hotel, but she wasn't willing. Senior Duanming said that they wouldn't do anything if they went to a hotel, so she agreed. I didn't think much about it at the time because Senior Duanming's conduct in school is still decent. I called Cancan later, and realized that I couldn't get through to her phone. Just now, a girl who stayed over in our class said that Duanming's family was poor, so he often used his good looks to seduce girls. He abducted girls from school to a hotel and contacted some shady young men to sell the girls' virginity. Listen, the girls who were sold were sullied by more than 10 men in one night. The girls didn't dare to speak about it because the men forced them to take drugs and made them addicted to drugs. Some girls were originally good girls, but because they were addicted to drugs, once the drug addiction kicked in, those girls were originally clean and honest girls, but because of this damn drug addiction, they even went to nightclubs to sell their bodies. My classmate told me just now that a girl in our school received 5 customers a night because of this. Speaking of this, Lu Fian was already a little scared. At the same time, she hated drug traffickers. Drug traffickers were one of the most detestable people in the world. They only cared about their own profits, but they would do anything to harm other people's families. This kind of scum can only die, Yin Jian said. Then she stepped on the accelerator and went to the hotel that Lu Fian mentioned. Fortunately, Wang Cancan had told Lu Fian about the hotel where he and Senior Duanming had booked a room. Tomorrow Red Hotel. As soon as they entered the hotel, Yin Jian and Lu Fian asked the receptionist for Wang Cancan's specific room, and went to the hotel. It was room 319, in the easternmost corner of the 3rd floor. On the easternmost staircase and elevator on the third floor, there was a group of more than 10 people. They seemed to be accomplices. Outside the hotel, Duanming was squatting on the ground with his hands on his head. It was obvious that he had done something bad. Once this is done, you will be rewarded handsomely. A man at the side patted Duanming's head. He did not treat Duanming as a human at all, and threw down a large pile of RMB from Duanming's head. Brother Xiong, how long has Mao Doer been in there? When will he be done? We brothers can't wait any longer. One of the men pulled up his pants and asked the man who was throwing money at Duanming. What's the rush? We just went in. Just as the man finished speaking, two figures ran up the stairs. Yin Jian and Lu Fian had clearly heard what the man had just said. They were already certain that Wang Cancan was in the hotel. Wang Cancan is inside? Yin Jian walked over to the hotel. Asking this question was just a slip of the tongue from Yin Jian's mouth. Who are you? Seeing that Yin Jian actually knew about Wang Cancan, the man immediately raised his voice. I will only give you 1 second to consider. Hand over Wang Cancan, or else none of you will leave today. All of you will die. Yin Jian glanced at them from the corner of his eyes, his sharp eyes causing the dozen or so people present to be stunned. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.